Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Free Thinkers. I'm one of the moderators, Q. Got Nikki with me. She's somewhere. Look like in the picture she driving. She probably driving in real life too. We'll find out. My voice feels kind of tired, but we gonna have some good conversation though.
I can't hear you. Can you hear?
I can hear you.
I can't hear you if you're talking to me. Let me see, make sure things turned up.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I know we're live. Hold on. Okay, let's try that again. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, me. What up, y'all? Happy Tuesday. Sorry for the little discombobulation here. I'm just trying to find my outlet so I can plug this laptop in. What's up, though? Happy Tuesday. Happy first day of summer. If you live in Texas, it was 90 degrees today.
Really, was it?
90 freaking degrees, which only means we're going to cook this summer.
You know, 90 degrees feel cool in Texas.
Man, but I tell you what, as I got in my car today, my car said 85, but I was like, this is a hot ass 85. Like, maybe it's just because my car was warm and we're just coming out of like quote unquote winter, but it was very, very warm today. But yeah, 90 was what they 90 is what they said that we got up to today.
I'm saying, like, if you go up to Illinois and they be like it's 90, you be like, oh, it's hot. I didn't feel hot to me. It just felt not winterish.
Just not winter. But anyways, we are here. We got some folks joining us tonight. Going to be a little bit late. So you know how we do. You're welcome to come in at any time. You can leave at any time. Welcome to Free Thinkers. We have a great conversation, I think, planned for tonight. We have a hell of a lot of conversations going on the Facebook page. So that's what we're doing tonight is a pick a post, which if you've been with us long enough, you know, pick a post is literally where we do just that. We go to the Facebook group page and we just pick posts that are popular or not popular. You know, could be something that was just posted and totally glassed over.
Or some things on there you just don't you don't have enough,
you can't type
words to type it out. You're like, I really want to talk about this, but I ain't got enough time to be typing this back and forth.
And there's just some shit you can't type. Like some things literally require a conversation because you have to get inflections down. Like you really have to get your point across. So like that's kind of one of the places where I've been leaving conversation at a little bit is come talk to me live, come on Tuesday, or I'm like, I'm not typing this out. I'm not going to get into a keyboard debate, you know, just I'd rather talk about it. So that's what Pick a Post is for. It's a variety of purposes, but it's literally just grabbing stuff off of our
and I need to talk to you in real time too.
Yeah, that part.
A lot of people, I feel purposefully, they'll listen to you'll write this long thing out and they'll pick just pieces of what they disagree or pieces about what you said that could throw you off, and they start, I'm like, you ain't catch none of what I said. I need to get live, face to face, voice to voice with you.
Right.
I can hold your feet to the fire, just like I'm gonna do Nikki.
Or so we can explore where we're missing each other at and trying to explain this on the page, right? Like, and it's just it's interesting because oftentimes people who, you know, are very vocal on the page don't always engage in these conversations live. And it's like, you can just say stuff and put it out there and that's fine. But like, we like to get the basis behind the why and like, tell us why this is your position or how you really feel about the situation, you know? So hopefully some of those folks, you know, will join us tonight, but if not, that's all right.
They're not.
No, because we have some very controversial conversations happening on there. And at one point yesterday, I was like, I'm just going to stop typing. And when it was mentioned that we do a pick a post, I was like, man, let's just do it that way. Come here and have a conversation because I'm not going to just keyboard warrior you back to death.
You know what's I think I know what you're talking. I want to hear a look because I don't really go into too much of the comment threads. I might glance over it a little bit, but I'm interested on what was kind of the sentiment of what was being said in some of them posts. More specifically, one of the posts that I'm thinking of, what was
the grandma one, the granny and the coddling one, that one.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought that was important to talk about because it sure felt like only men responded to that. And, there's a real conversation that needs to be had about just because something was one thing in the past doesn't mean it was okay. Doesn't mean that, that we just because shit was what it was doesn't always mean that things were agreed and co-signed or whatever. So I definitely.
I'm ready to jump in, but I'm
willing to have that conversation. You want to start with that one first? Because that was one of the ones that was
sure.
That was one of the ones that was most triggering to some of the fellas on the page. I have to say.
I got something to say about it.
All right, so real quick, we'll just do the business, of course. Like, share, like, share. Thank you to those of you who have been sharing our page, who have been engaging with us in the comments and on the live. Who have been over on our YouTube channel, of course, sharing our YouTube channel. We've got a couple more subscribers every week, and it's just the coolest shit ever when we get off show and we hop over onto YouTube, and it's like, damn, we got one more new subscriber. So if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. It takes 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button. And then, of course, we'll keep you in tune with all the conversations that we have going on. You'll get a notification, all that good jazz, so you won't miss the conversations. Been live every Tuesday. If you want to get in the conversation tonight, same rules every single week. There's always going to be a post pinned at the front of the Facebook Freethinkers group page. And in there will be the link for Streamyard. You literally click on the link that says tonight's link. Don't click on the picture where it says Streamyard. It's just going to take you into some generic bullshit that will not bring you into our live stream. So you have to click on the link where it says tonight's link, and that will bring you directly into the live stream. You'll sit in the waiting room for a second. We'll bring you in, but that literally puts you on here as a live guest. Otherwise, you're welcome, and we always love for people to engage with us in the live chat, either on the YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. I think it's even up on my page as well. So you can chat, or you can engage with us in the conversation in the comment section of any of those for conversation purposes as well. All right, so that's pretty much it. And of course, adult conversation, adult topics. So, be mindful of who you have sitting around you listening if you feel like, young ears are sensitive, because yeah, they probably are going to hear some 4-letter words. So tonight, pick a post. We're just picking stuff off of the Facebook group page. If you're joining us now, go over to the Facebook group page. You can follow these conversations, because all of the conversations that we're going to talk about tonight are conversations that are actively happening over on the Facebook page. And so if you just kind of want to see more of what we're talking about and who said what and what was said and so on and so forth, you can find all those over on the Facebook page. One of the ones that I know Denise wanted to talk about, and Q, you had mentioned wanted to talk about as well, was a post that I put up last week. Do you want to cover anything else? Just go into it?
We could, because my buddy said she's going to be a little bit late, so I'll give her a little grace, and we could jump into a different one first before we go into that.
Well, should we talk about? Should we kill a little bit of time? Should we talk about our Tuesday event?
Yeah, we could do that, and then we could talk about other. I'm sure we got more posts than we actually gonna get to today, so we can get into those as well.
I know. Yeah, let's talk about lots of them in there. So, y'all, we have been talking about, trying to do a meeting once every quarter, once every whatever, right? Like, we've been trying to figure out, brainstorm, what's the best way for free thinkers to get back in person and do something on a consistent basis. Q and I definitely don't want to do every single week in person anymore, because the access that, we've gotten from being able to do this online definitely changes the dynamic for us. And we love who we're able to reach by doing this online, but definitely have significant value in those old school meetups in the building. And we do know that a lot of people would still participate with freethinkers and would like to participate with freethinkers if they weren't recorded, if they weren't live, if there wasn't the whole wild world being able to see deep into your thoughts and into your heart and into your spirit.
And that's how we started. Yeah.
Which is how we started. So, we totally understand why some folks are like, yeah, I just watch, I don't say too much because so-and-so is watching my job. We totally get it. A couple weeks ago, a friend of mine,
which is also why my name is spelled the way it's spelled in every.
You know how long it took me to realize? I'm like, you totally. It was years ago, but it took me a while to realize that's not how you spell your name.
Type in my real name. Employers, type in my real name. It'll be very hard for you to find.
They're not gonna find you.
Of mine.
See,
you can, but it's hard. It ain't gonna pop right up.
No, and I, mine. I guess I don't have the same concern, right? So like, you're not going to tell my boss, I'm not going to get in trouble. Like, you can't report me to somebody. Like, you could, but I'm not going to get fired from my job.
Well, I am your boss, B.
So I don't have the same concerns about like anonymity with my name, but I totally understand why some people do. We do talk about controversial things. We do talk about, very personal things. So a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine, Brent Pollard, who is one of the owners of Dirty Glove Midwest Barbecue, who we've been friends with for a long time, fan of the show, has a food truck in North Austin. And they used to be a late night food truck, and just things, whatever, right? Like, just shit happens, and focus on one business and so on and so forth. And anyways, they're back up and running, and he's been up and running. He's a late night barbecue spot out of Detroit. He's from Detroit. So he's got a food truck here up in North Austin off of Howard Lane. It's an Alice's Food Court. Some of y'all, if you already know me, you know where Brent's spot is at. But they have a huge pavilion. It's beautiful. It's covered. It's sheltered. It's got plenty of space, lounge chairs, bistro tables, card tables, couches, sofas, heaters, fans, food trucks, free parking, like all the things galore. And so we have committed, and he has committed to us to host once a month, the last Tuesday of every month. We're going to be back over at Brent's, and we're going to do Freethinkers Not Live on Tuesday, last Tuesday of the month. He's like, yay! So every last Tuesday.
You've been asking, we responded.
You've been asking, and we've been wanting to too, just logistically trying to find a place and how it's going to work. I mean, a lot of us know people in the industry, and trying to do it at a bar doesn't work for everybody. Trying to do it at a lot of spaces didn't work for everybody, and this will work for everybody. It's got food all night long. You've got free parking. You've got plenty of place to sit. It's absolutely private.
As central of a location as you're gonna find enough.
Yeah, it's really central. So it's right off of 35 and Howard Lane before you get to Schofield, Lamplight area. It's like I said, open late. It's BYOB. Whatever your preference of adult beverage is, it's absolutely friendly like that out there. So it's going to be fantastic. And so obviously we will continue talking about this as the weeks go by. But every last Tuesday of the month, starting this month, we will be at the food truck. And it's going to be fantastic. And it will probably turn into a whole lot of parking lot conversations. So be prepared for a Tuesday night turn up, because we're not going to be done when this thing is over. We will continue to keep going and hanging out. And if you want to leave, obviously you can. But it'll definitely open up the door for a lot of great networking, a lot of great just relationships, a lot of great conversation, and being able to see people again, some of whom we haven't seen since COVID. I
thought of us meeting up and everything. It reminds me of the old Austin. Like that's the way it's supposed to be. I know.
Austin
used to be cool back in the day, man. Austin used to be a pretty cool place.
I agree. Used to be.
And I mean, it has its pockets, but anybody who's been here a length of time will tell you it ain't the same.
And that was one of the things that, Brent and I talked about, and Smack as well, because we're going to do some stuff up there, is just that, like, we missed that old school vibe. Like, just the everybody got together and hung out type shit. Like, that doesn't have to be at a club. It doesn't have to be at a bar. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to always be a Friday night or a Saturday night. Like, there's been many a weeks these last couple months where I'm like, Monday night, what is there to do? Like, where can I go get some live music? Where can I hear some spoken word? And this is Austin, Texas. You should never be wondering
Right.
where you can go listen to live music at. But, you know, COVID really, really hurt this city. And so this being able to see people on a Tuesday night and get in person and get in your spirit and get in your space and have some good food and drinks if you want to drink, no pressure if you don't drink, you know, like, it's going to be amazing. So put that on your calendar, last Tuesday of every month.
I had a vision. You just reminded me of a like a vision / dream that I had probably about, it had to be probably a couple years ago. Probably when we
Okay. Okay.
I'll talk to you about it later. Don't worry.
Okay.
But yeah,
I
it
thought
was,
you
man.
were going to go in with the Raven visions.
I thought about it, but I'm like, it'd be, you know, like Martin Luther King, I have a dream type of thing, and it'd be really dope. But
okay.
yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things we can do. I mean, there's just, I was like, can we do it tonight? I was so looking forward to like starting this. So who knows what happens after we do, you know, the once a month, you know, maybe we do more than once a month. I don't know. But right now we're doing once a month, the last Tuesday of every month. We will go in person at the food truck lot. We will not go live. So we will broadcast live up until the time we start having conversation. And then once we start having conversation, that's it. Cameras are off and nobody will know what's discussed in those meetings except for the people who show up for those meetings. So I'm looking forward to it. I am definitely looking forward to it. So obviously, if you want some more information, you're like, what the hell is she talking about? Just message me and we'll certainly give you the information. But there will be lots more coming out as the weeks go on. So that was our first little, you know, tidbit of, you know, good news for 2024 in terms of moving this thing forward and, you know, hoping to see some folks again and just going to the next step. So it's baby steps. So we're getting there. We appreciate y'all for, you know, doing this thing with us. We literally can't do this.
I have several people who still ask me about meeting in person, and, you know, they kind of voice like, yeah, going live. Some people, you know, we got a wide array of people. Some people just social media in general is not their thing. Some people getting on live is not their thing. But like, hey, I've heard many people, hey, as soon as y'all meet up in person, let me know. I'll be there. So,
right.
So
so back in person, we will go. Back in person, we will go. So there's a lot to cover. I mean, it's really up to you. Where I put a bunch.
You know, all of these, most of these posts, I haven't seen them, so you could tell me which one stands out.
Yes. Okay, well, let's start with this one because this was interesting. So obviously today we had, and I'll put it back up there. Obviously today we had issues with social media. Everybody is social media: Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. Something other. I think the instant messages and like all the things, right? Obviously went down today.
I think people felt like it was Y2K going on all over again. Like, oh, the Y2K, is everything shutting down?
I saw some people post that, but you know, a lot of people, myself included, I literally had just finished typing the words cannibal on a Facebook freethinkers conversation.
Oh, they blocked me again.
I swear to God, Q, as soon as I said the word cannibal, it was a conversation. It was me, Tyranny, and one of the new fellas. We were having a conversation about this thing that I posted about this lawmaker who basically went to session to try to basically make sure that cannibalism is not legal in any form or fashion in the United States. And so in the body of the conversation, of course, a couple of the fellas had gotten to a conversation, and one of the guys was like, yeah, it was a joke. It's not that deep. And I was like, no, actually, it really is that deep. Because if there isn't a law that says you can't put human parts in our food and in things that we consume, they will definitely put human parts in our food, which is not to say that they aren't already. And to somebody's point, they do that in other countries. So I typed the word cannibal, right? And within like seconds of me typing the word cannibal, like mine along with everybody else's, shit just went like dead. Like you couldn't do nothing. You were logged out, couldn't log in. So I'm doing like the recovery thing, gives me all my different profiles I can check in with. And I was like, damn, I haven't seen a couple of these in a minute. So I log in with my main and it's like, yeah, password doesn't work. And I'm like, yes, it does. And funny enough, I saw a couple people posting about how they were trying a different combination of their password today. Like, I know this is my password. Did I forget it? Did not have an issue with my password. Like, password has not changed, but sure as shit, couldn't get in, couldn't get the code. So same thing I'm sure everybody went through. But it was just funny, right? How many people simultaneously thought that their accounts were suspended or they got kicked off of social media for some reason, because then when it wouldn't work on Facebook and you would go over to Instagram, and Instagram and Facebook are the same people, but it's like, shit, it's not working over there on Instagram either. And then my daughter, she sends me a message. She goes, you know, Twitter will tell you everything. She said, Twitter don't never go down. She was like, there's obviously an outage. So initially everybody thought they got hacked. Initially everybody thought that, you know, they got thrown in Facebook jail. It was amazing how many people, you know, after the shit came back on were like, I totally thought I was in Facebook jail again. So, you know, we know a lot of folks who clearly are afraid of violations and go to Facebook jail. But during that time, you know, being off the internet, everybody obviously, well, not off the internet exclusively, but off of Facebook and off of Instagram. Everybody obviously spent, you know, their 30 minutes in the dark with different thoughts and feelings about, you know, what if, and is it, and, you know, is this the day?
So do you
like,
think they did that on purpose to test how people will respond? I said, do you think they did that on purpose to test how people will respond?
I think it's all a test run. They're all test runs to see how people are going to respond. And that's why I posted even after we got back on Facebook. I was like, y'all know they're still watching to see what people are now saying about having been kicked off for like the last 30, 45 minutes. So yeah, I definitely think that it's
minor power outages. You think that's a test run?
Do I think that what?
That's a test run. Some of these winter power outages that they have where they can't.
Oh, those are definitely, yeah. Rolling blackouts and power outages are absolutely tests to see how does society behave.
Yeah. How far can we push them or withhold from them before
people start snapping,
and anarchy arises?
And they're not ready for us to go full on ham. So they can't, you know, we're not set up to where we finna lose it all right now, but they're definitely doing little bits and pieces of rollouts. And that's what fucking COVID was, seeing how people responded, seeing how people complied or didn't comply with quarantine and lockdown, see how people did or didn't comply with the vaccine, see how people do and don't comply with social media, see how people, you know, what people's thoughts and feelings are, fears are, you know. I can only imagine what the algorithms and what those data banks collected in the last 6, 7, 8 hours since they put us back on today. Like, how many keywords were
what's your response time? How long did it take from the time we went offline to panic start setting in?
Exactly.
Seconds, minutes.
When then, like, how many other social media pages usage skyrocketed once Instagram and Facebook were down? You know, did Twitter go into overdrive? Did, you know, Snapchat go into overdrive? Did TikTok go into overdrive? Like all the other non-meta based social media sites, you know, how did those, you know, go during the time? So all of it is absolute data collection. 100%, I believe, data collection. But, you know, one of the things that I had posted when we got back on was, and Denise was like, no, she's like, we definitely need to talk about this.
You posted it as soon as we got back on, then you posted something.
I did. Let me see, where did it go? I'm trying to find it in our little tab. Yeah, I posted a few things. Let's see. So this is the first thing that I posted, and Denise was like, no, we definitely need to talk about that. What did your conversations look like in the last 30 minutes? And this was right after we got back on to social media. And, you know, I think it was interesting how some people responded to that question as, oh, it's no big deal. There's plenty of people I can talk to in my real life. So it wasn't like, you know, missing Facebook for 30 minutes was like the end of my day. Totally understandable. Like 30 minutes off of social media, you should be able to get along.
And that's easy to say once it comes back on.
Right.
When you're in a state of not knowing when or if it's coming back on. And then now I will tell you one thing, because I didn't care. I was already working. I didn't care much, but I thought about how much of my life, my pictures, our videos, my content, how much of that is on this platform that could potentially be lost and I'll never see it again. I
Right.
did think about that.
I mean, think about like MySpace. Everything we ever put on MySpace is
Oh man,
gone. It's all gone. Like, oh, that shit's gone. And if you from the original MySpace days, you got years of your teenage life and your young 20s.
I got on MySpace a lot later, but yeah, it's a lot that you're right about that.
I saw somebody post today. They're like, shit, I was about to log into MySpace and see if that shit worked today. After social media, after Facebook and Instagram didn't work. I mean, so obviously a lot of conversations I think were had, but it was interesting how, just literally putting up something as simple as what did your conversations look like for the last 30 minutes? How interesting people took that as like, how much does this control your life? And I think, yes, on one hand, it definitely shows us how addicted we are to social media, that so many of us like didn't know what to do the second that this shit went down. But my first thing, I reached out to you and Denise. I reached out to Jules. I reached out to, I have a family group message with my kids and their dad. Like, I made sure that like people who I thought needed to know knew, first of all, and then I had conversations with my group text message, the reminder of getting to a safe place. This could be something, this could be nothing.
Hold on, let's see, and so, but for me, I'm a think 3-4 steps down the line type of person. And there's some stuff I think 3 or 4 steps down the line, I'm like, oh, I'm screwed because I'm not gonna make the preparation to be able to accommodate. So there's a lot of this stuff that I'm anticipating happening. I'm like, well, when this happens, I'm gonna be screwed because I don't have anything in place for that. But
right.
One other thing, the one immediate thought that I had, even though I wasn't really on, and I don't be on Facebook that much. So
right.
It didn't
I know.
do
I was wondering if you were even gonna know it was happening when I messaged you.
I didn't, and when you said it, then I tried to go in to see what you supposedly said or what happened, and I'm like, oh, I can't get in either.
It's like, I can't get on either.
Thinking down the line, not just social media, but what happens when the internet crashes? What happened when, I'm like, one of my thoughts is, I think I might need to go back and get a landline phone.
What makes you say you want to get a landline?
Because cell phones are controlled by satellites, and like landline phones are not controlled by the same mechanisms as cell phones and satellites and things like that. So like you see in Live Free or Die Hard, the guy had a CB4 radio like the old truckers used to do. Like you need to have something that doesn't operate on the same grid as
you
what
gotta have
something
that has antenna communication and access to antenna communication and airwaves like that.
Like even back in the day, and that was even the downside of having these cordless home phones, because there's several times when our power went out, then the phone didn't work. But when you had those old landlines, phone still worked even when your power was out. So it's like you gotta know how to hold on to some of that stuff.
Well, and to that point, I wonder realistically what the infrastructure looks like today regarding like the old school home phone connection, like having the wires run into the house or in the box in front of the house. And like, I don't even know if my house even, I have the old, because this house is very old. So I know I have the old phone jack, whatever's jacks in the wall so I could plug a home phone in, but I don't even know if any of the cables are functioning. Like, and then of course, if they snap all those fibers, or if communication is just cut all together, I don't think a home phone's going to matter. I think that having walkie-talkies, I think that having CB radio, I think that having some type of, I know Tierney's mentioned getting a satellite phone, and if you can afford that, absolutely. They're about $800 for a satellite phone, but you also would have to have communication with somebody else who's got a satellite phone too. So to your point,
even the TVs have gone digital now, so you can't even, without a digital converter, you can't get the basic channels like you could back in the day with the antennas.
You can't even get 7 to come in, you know, with the
Right.
bunny ears.
So if everything goes out, then you know, if all communication is shut down, we may not even know what's going on.
Radio, old school radio.
Yeah.
So many people don't even have an old school hand
And you
radio.
know, a lot of new cars are not even like, you have to, that is optional now. Like you have to request for a lot of the newer cars to have, I know AM for sure. They just doing away with AM, but I think AM and FM, you have to request if you want to have those in newer cars. You got to request if you want to have it. A lot of new cars don't even come with FM radio.
That's crazy to me. And you think about, why would they get rid of technology that has always worked? Because they don't want us to be able to communicate with each other when this shit hits the fucking fan. If we were able to share information quickly, that's gonna halt some of whatever it is that the powers that maybe are trying to do. And so you have to go those old school communication routes.
They had a movie. Did you ever watch Live Free or Die Hard with Bruce Willis?
I've seen it, but my memory for movies is bad. Like when it's
but that was the whole thing. One of the guys from the Pentagon, he was a brainiac, but he was telling them that your system is flawed. And they didn't want anything to do with him. They fired him, kicked him out. And he was like, okay, I'll show you. And he used technology just to shut everything down. He shut down the media. He took over the news station, like the TV stations. He shut down the electricity, the water, and then it was complete chaos from there.
Yep. And that's what it's going to be. You know, and I think, you know, unless you really and truly subscribe to a full-time prepper lifestyle or have committed to a full-time prepper regimen to be able to say, I'm prepared like a motherfucker when the shit hits the fan, most of us are not going to have all the things that we need at that exact moment, especially if we're not at home when some shit goes down. And of course, they say you should always keep your bug out bag with you. Have one in the car, have one at your office, like have one on you at all times. And yes, of course, that's ultimately the way you want to go about it. But you got to start somewhere. Like in these little moments of, you know, and I say little, but let's take the ice storm that we had. What, 2020? Was it the 2020, 2021? I think it was 2021.
It was probably 2021. Yeah.
Because it was like literally the year after COVID started. It was just like, this is a shit part of the year for us. It was cold. We had, you know, this freak ass freeze rain that broke every tree in town somehow that nobody'd ever seen before. And you know, people were without communications for like 7 days. Some people had no gas in parts of town for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you know, and obviously the ability to communicate and get around once the ice melted and people were able to get their cars out of their driveways and, you know, so on and so forth. People at that time started having conversations about, okay, I need to get a generator. I need to do this. I need to do that. So then when the ice storm came this year, just what, a couple weeks ago, we had a couple days of ice. People were like, yeah, I never got that generator. And yeah, I never started to stock food. Yep. And yeah, I never got any light straws. And
yeah, so I know I'm screwed. I'm screwed if everything, when it really goes down.
I think that there are people who are at peace with that too.
I'm just hoping it takes long enough. Like I prefer to be dead by the time this happens. I hope the whole apocalypse just give about 30 years. Just give us about 30 years. I'll be on my way out of here by then.
I don't know if we're even gonna get 30 years. I don't.
I know, that's what I'm concerned. I don't know if it's gonna. I'm
so with you. So prepper mentality, right? Just getting things. And again, you don't have to have everything overnight all the time, but if you want to even try to survive with your family, with your children, or by yourself, you've definitely got to start putting some things in place so that you can be able to leave city. Where are you going? How are you getting there? You know, so many people think, oh, I'm just going to stay in the house and then I'll wait till help comes. You better get the hell out of Dodge. Help is not coming in the form of assistance. Help is coming to take your shit in your house, raid what you have, possibly take your children and separate your family.
War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
Those movies, yes.
Help is coming for those that can afford it.
Yeah, help is definitely coming for those. And as we see,
Oh,
they're
did you
building
see?
bunkers.
Nikki, did you ever see Don't Look Up? I told you to watch that.
Yes, of course.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
hell yeah. I loved it. I watched that one a couple times, and them fools just
Yeah, I
watched it,
did.
watched it,
It's
watched
so
it,
funny.
watched it, watched it.
It's so funny and real and scary at the same time. It's like
It is, but that was what the Leave the World Behind. So so you start kind of adding up these little things, right? So what? 2 weeks ago we had cell phone outage where people's cell phones just didn't work at all. No wireless, no data. You couldn't even make 911 calls. Like, people are mad about this $5 credit that AT&T is going to give them, but like it affected all ability to dial out, to dial in. You were useless. And a lot of people didn't know how to act at that time, right? So you take that, and then you take this, and you take this, you take this, and all these little bits and pieces start to add up to, hell yeah, I think they're test runs. Absolutely,
but
I think
that's
there are
why
ways of seeing how we
I live
respond.
my life like this could be the last day of comfortability. Like I live like that all the time. I think about that. Like when I'm walking through the grocery store and just picking out whatever expensive ass food I want to get. I'm like, this could all I literally I was in the grocery store like last week, and I was like, you know what? A week from now, our whole world could be turned upside down, and all of because like we don't realize how comfortable we are in the midst of chaos.
Sure.
That Israel is at war, Israel, Palestine, Russia's at war, Africa always got wars going on. It's like we don't think it will happen to us.
Right.
But it's happening all around us.
And it's always been happening. Right. Yeah. I think that they just give us these little conveniences to like make us think that it's never gonna happen. It's always in the movies. Like it happens in third world countries.
History tells you it's gonna happen again.
You would think
there was a civil war in America that that scorched up the South. I mean, it happens.
When you look at what's happening to Texas Panhandle, they said over 1 million acres of farmland has been burnt the fuck up. Like, what do you think is going to happen when there are no more beef to be able to be produced? Oh, just so conveniently happens that Bill Gates owns 240,000 acres of American farmland, some of which is in native territory that somehow the fucking government just gave him anyways, and was like, well, you can have the most farmland owned by any one person in this whole entire country. So what's going to happen when we have no more beef, and we have no more chicken, and we have no more eggs, because they keep blowing up these chicken factories and setting fire to places where all of our produce is produced.
Labs.
We're gonna have lab food. We're gonna have cultured food. Yeah, and we've talked about that on the show before. Cultured meat.
Chris Tucker said a long time ago on Rush Hour, follow the rich white man.
Right.
Pay attention. Yeah. Why is this rich white man doing all of this stuff?
And
follow the rich white man.
Did you see Q? And I posted this that the Walmart family just sold off, and I'm gonna get this wrong.
Yes.
I want to say it was like $400 or $500 billion worth of stocks. Let me make sure I get this right. Hold on.
Really?
Yeah, they just sold off a shit ton amount of billions of stocks.
Well, I mean, speaking of Civil War, tonight is Super Tuesday. Tonight we get to find out that the two candidates no one wants is going to run again.
Right. I was looking at that, Stephanie, and
I'm sorry, 1.5 billion. I'm so sorry about that. 1.5 billion.
I was like, I don't even think Bezos is only worth. He was only worth like a couple $100 billion before.
It says the sale brings the family's total proceeds to nearly $2.3 billion in the span of 3 fucking months. $2.3 billion in the span of 3 months. Man, I encourage every single person who's watching this to stop shopping at Walmart. But Walmart is here to destroy.
But it's a monopoly. If you're not, where are you gonna go if you don't go to Walmart?
HEB. This is where you gotta find your local. This is where you gotta get back out of your fucking convenience American comfort zone.
Most of the local stores don't even supply those type of things.
No, but
And you know
got
what was messed
Target,
up
and you got.
because my mom was with me most of last week, and
I saw that.
she loved HEB, right? But it's like in a lot of, but she's from a smaller city,
Right.
in a lot of smaller cities, they don't have nothing but Walmart. Like
That
a
was
lot
by
of
design.
the grocery stores are even closed down now.
That's
like
by design.
Walmart is the only thing that's there.
That was by design because they kicked out all your friendly mom and pop handyman shops and what them old warehouse, them old general stores and trading post types of stores, right? Like places you would get your general goods at. Walmart's purpose was to come in, cash the fuck out, promise they're going to give everybody jobs, right? When more than half of their employees are on government assistance. And then they killed the small mom and pop. They literally had the entire city design everything around the existence of Walmart and the dissolving of any of the small businesses that are in those communities.
And they kill it by basically using slave labor. They go over to China and have all of their goods made over there at dirt poor prices, where they're paying people pennies on the dollar that they'd have to pay the American workforce. And that's how they're able to undercut. That's how they were able to undercut all of the other existing stores, so where they couldn't compete with them.
No, they don't carry local products. They don't support, they don't have local growers in cities that they have taken over. They don't have local artisans, selling products in their store. And then now, of course, we have the entire places ran by machines. Like we had to go to Walmart last night because it was 10 o'clock at night, and I had to get my son a pair of shoes for this job.
That's my point, Nikki. That's my point. You being opposed to it, your options are still limited. Like those who know that it's wrong.
Had I planned better, which I didn't. So had I planned better, I would have taken advantage of my weekend time to go elsewhere. But had last minute. I had to go to Walmart.
I'm not even faulting you for it. I'm just saying they got it to the place where it's so extremely hard for you to use those alternative options to where they're going to win regardless. And it has to be someone extremely principled like yourself that would be willing to go out of their way to find the mom and pop store. But the average person isn't, or the average person, either they're not principled enough or they don't have enough money because it's going to cost more. Because now to get everything that you get at Walmart, you're going to have to go to 3 to 5 different stores to be able to find those same items. And then those items are going to cost a little bit more because they're not being made overseas and they don't have their own manufacturing center overseas like Walmart does. You're gonna have to pay more. You're gonna have to go to more places to get. Most people are just not able to do that, and they know that.
But at some point, if we don't realize that we hold the actual power, then we're just going to keep bitching about this until humanity dies off.
And that's my point. I'm not bitching about it. I know.
Well, no, I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. You in particular. Just as
I know where this world is headed, and I've already made peace with it. I just hope.
Can I say something too, though? Like it's almost in some ways, not all the time, but in some ways, it is. We're all just a part of this system. Because the system is capitalism and the system is built on the fact that we don't have time because the time we are spending, we're working. So with the spare time that we have, it's very limited and time is money. And like Q said, going to all those stores, you don't have time to do. You know what I mean? It's like it's we can only do what we can with what we have. And I think like the fact that you had to go, I think the fact that you had to go last night is just, that's what you had to do last night. Had you had more time, you would do more things.
I did. I just didn't plan my time better.
I told y'all about my conspiracy theory many, many times over the last 10 years. I believe that Walmart technically owns Target.
Ooh.
Target's just a nicer.
Because
Target's just the more expensive version.
Because it's but it's illegal to have, supposedly illegal to have a monopoly in any category in America. They'll break it up if it's a monopoly. But every time there's a Walmart, then they put a Target somewhere within the vicinity and they say, hey, we're not a monopoly. There's our competition right across the street.
Competition.
And it's a 10,000 people go through Walmart today, and it's about 900 people go through Target. I'm like, how are they still running when they only have a fraction of the foot traffic of Walmart? And I told y'all this before. My friend, they already my friend, he had a hustle. He would what would he do? He would buy something from like Target, and then he would go and exchange it at Walmart, and they give him a refund for it because the barcode, you can run the barcodes and it still add up the same. But what happened was it was one or the other. But what happened was he would buy the more he would buy it from Walmart. That's what he would do. He would buy like a video game from Walmart because at Walmart it's a lot cheaper. He'd buy it from Walmart, turn around, return it at Target. They scan it. It scans exactly the same, but it's twice as expensive at Target as it is Walmart. So you buy a game for $20 at Walmart, turn around, take it to at Walmart, turn around, take it to Target, and get a refund for me, and they're gonna give you $40 back. He just made $20 just doing something simple like that. So my point is, how can they cut that shit out? They differentiate the difference in the products when their scanner can it comes up the same. They in cahoots with each other,
right? Well, and I don't even know
find out later on down the road. I've been saying that for the longest.
And I don't know if you can still do that anymore. Like you got to usually have a receipt or a credit card that was used to purchase. Like they be real funny with returns now. Because
what they'll do is
even if they Walmart back in the day,
receipt, they'll give you a credit though.
They'll give you a store credit for whatever, and then you get the lowest price that it's marked at in the store. So they definitely try to not.
If I want to buy a game for $15 and then turn around and get a store credit at Target for $45, I still came up.
Well, yeah, I just don't know if you can.
Anyway, that wasn't my point. My point is they in cahoots together.
They're in cahoots with each other. Right. I mean, why would they not be? Why would it's good business for both of them, because the Target shopper is going to stay at the Target and the Walmart shopper is going to stay at the Walmart. But at some point they're going to mix, because Target was not open 24 hours a day where Walmart was open 24 hours a day. Now you got Walmart closing like 11 o'clock at night. I don't even know what time Target closes. I don't generally shop at Target. But
people who shop at Target are just people who want to feel like they're better than the rest of society.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about Target. They've never had great
I'm too good for Walmart, so I'm gonna go to Target over here.
Look, I was a Kmart shopper growing up. We like Kmart. When I was living up north, we did Shopco.
Is out of there, Sears out of there.
That layaway hit.
Man, I missed that layaway. I really, really missed that layaway today.
Afterpay is the new layaway.
That is true. Yes, it is. That is true. I've never done Afterpay either. I've never used that.
You can pay in full on all kinds. You can pay in full on your air travel. You can pay in full on your vacations. It's wild.
I need to look into that more often.
Stephanie, what I was gonna say, what you were talking about Super Tuesday. I don't really follow politics much, but when I was looking at the numbers coming in, I was like, we are so screwed up.
We're screwed.
Like, it shows me how the system works, because granted, some people, there's a portion of people who believe in Trump and they vote for him. Nobody really believes in Biden. Nobody even thinks he's capable of
doing the job.
We don't even know if he's going to be alive for another 4 years. Like, nobody really believes in Biden, but still he's getting 90% of all of the votes right now.
Is that what they're saying?
Yes,
he's not Trump. I mean, you've got people who are going to vote for Trump, and then you have people who are going to not vote for Trump, and they don't care who it is.
And they're going to vote for Biden because they know that he's the only chance of keeping Trump out of office.
Mm-hmm. And this is really the best we can do.
But you're not voting for either party who you think is going to I was like, yeah, we screwed. Like it clearly showed me how screwed our system is.
But you've also been looking at it from I was going to say, but you've also been looking at it, I feel like, Q, because I know we've had these conversations in more depth, especially with Black Tea Talk. Like, you've been looking at it a little bit more objectively, I feel like, in regards to voting you know, I know voting is a very, very, very personal topic for people, and I totally understand that. But the more that I watch what voting does and what voting looks like and what voting, you know, is the illusion of, voting is the grand illusion of choice, right? And that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I do not feel like what we fucking go in that voting booth and tally up on our paper or our screen, they're going to give us who they want to give us. So the fact that these are the two that we get to choose from, when if voting was important, there's a slew of, I'm sure, other ethical, principled, educated candidates who could get us to a better place if that's where the goal of America was. But that is not the goal of America. We can't be better. We have to stay these lazy, complicit, obeying fucking Americans so that whatever the agenda is able to be accomplished. But the fact that these are the two people that they give us as options makes most of America feel like I have to choose one of these two. If I don't choose one, then I'm voting for the other. And I hate that fucking mentality. And I understand why people say that, but what would happen? And you know, and Smack and I talked about this a lot the last cycle. What would happen if even 50% of regular voters, so I'm not voting this year. What would happen if 75%, if 80% of people said, you know what? Oh, we're not gonna subscribe to this fucking charade anymore. What happens then? Because we've never tried that.
The electoral college decides. The electoral college, whatever.
Yeah, that joke.
Whatever the fuck that means. But you know what that segues into, right? That segues into sleeping their way to the top, because you remember all.
Well, hold on, Stephanie. Hold on.
You know, Kamala Harris was accused of this, of sleeping.
I heard Judge Joe Brown say that too.
Oh, really?
Before we segue, which was actually a great segue, by the way. Denise, you had your hand up. You wanted to say something?
Denise had her hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to say that.
No, that was perfect segue time.
Sorry.
Rewind it.
To Nikki's point, like, we have a choice. We actually do have a choice. And people are still choosing to participate in a broken system. And until people say, I'm not participating and I don't care what the consequences are from not participating, we will constantly be giving these choices. I stopped voting when they threw Hillary down my throat, and I told y'all that's not it. We had all seemed like we all agreed that we wanted it to be Bernie, and y'all still gave us Hillary. So I said, bet. I said, okay, no, because see, y'all not going to force me to do something I don't want to do, so I'm not. So whatever you get is going to be on you. And I think people are not ready for what is required to dismantle and rebuild. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, until we get to that point where we're like, all right, well, shit got to fall before we can like rebuild it. And then also, we don't actually have a plan in place to rebuild. We know that it's a problem, but then what is the plan to rebuild? And I think that's where we get stuck at. And if we actually had a plan and we actually were organized and not distracted by so much bullshit and not distracted by the mere fact that we're just trying to survive. Because I mean, we can get into like how hard it is right now to survive. And when you're just concerned about, how am I going to pay my rent? Am I going to have a place to stay? How am I going to feed myself? How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to, you know, continue to work at this job with these people that I may not like and trying to survive? That there's so many things. That's why I say it goes back to capitalism. If you're not struggling to pay your bills in some way, you are still, even if you're rich, you are a victim of the system. That's how it works. Everybody's a victim of the system. So even when this group gets it together, this group still has a problem. Like, I can take this whole thing back to, like, I'm not gonna do that because let's go to this thing because I have.
Well, no. Let me say something real quick, because I've recently within myself I've had a change of thought. So, Nikki, you are 100% correct. Stephanie, I agree with you. Denise, you are correct. However, when it comes to voting, after I
just stop
keep,
there. Just stop where you were.
Nope,
I like the first part of that.
After I keep looking into history, and I keep watching movies and documentaries, and I look at everything that my ancestors went through in order for us to have the ability to vote, combined with the forces that be who do everything to keep us from voting and try to push that back. Out of respect to my ancestors, I will vote out of principle. Well, even if I don't even fully agree with it or not, even if I just vote independent, if I vote, not one way or another, I will exercise that right just out of respect for everything that they did. When I look at history and I look at everything they went through and people, just the crazy stuff they went through just to give us that right, then it's in principle, I feel like it's my duty to respect what they did by exercising that right.
Okay, hold on. Before you go, Nikki, I got to step in on this one.
Go ahead. I'm going to make a note.
I have the same feeling, but how I'm exercising my respect for them is to make a choice, to make my choice, because this is still a version of some sort of enslavement and some version of not really having a choice. If we still participate in something that we don't like, if we were to take this scenario and shift it back to the slavery days, what will we be doing by still deciding to vote when we don't agree with what's happening? We are still agreeing to be enslaved. Somebody got to get up off that plantation, and it's not going to be comfortable, and people will die figuratively and sometimes literally. But in the space that we're in now, the odds of us having to die literally for that are not the same. Back then, they had to literally die to get freedom. We have to figuratively die. We have to get uncomfortable, but we don't have to die for freedom like they did.
It's figurative now until it turns literal. That's the part that people don't understand. There are literally people who are looking to push us back to the 1800s.
Yeah.
And just because we don't see it directly, think about what they're doing in other areas. So again, it's not even that I disagree with you. And let me add one more point to that. The biggest problem is we look at the flawed system when it comes to the top tier, meaning the presidential race and even some senators and so forth. And we make the mistake of thinking voting doesn't work. Yeah, voting is screwed up when it comes to the electoral college and things you're talking about with that. But now people go to the, well, I'm not going to register. Well, what about your local? What about for your community? What about your district? What about your city? See, we've conditioned ourselves that voting has no value at all. Now, I agree that it's very negligible when it comes to who's going to win the presidency, but in your local area, in your county, in your community, it does make a difference. But we've convinced ourselves that voting doesn't work. So all of this stuff that goes on that does directly affect us, we don't participate in because we've convinced ourselves that it has no value. And that's where we miss our mindset. We miss it.
How readily available is this information like that? Too, even that's by design.
It's
everything is readily available. It's what we decide. See, the internet didn't break down. We just had a fit because Facebook went down. All the rest of the information is still available to us on a regular basis.
Mine didn't go down. It was weird. I didn't have a problem. I didn't get kicked out. I don't know. Mine worked. I don't know what happened.
But even what I'm saying, so like outside of the Big 10, you tell me about what websites you frequently visit. I mean, I'm talking about outside of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Google. Shit. I mean, outside of the Big 10, what other there's hundreds of millions of websites, and we can't get past really 10 that we actually participate with.
Well, that's their part.
Yes, it's by design, but my point is the information is there. but we are also conditioned to not to overlook information. That's why I have issues. I'm gonna get to you in a second, Nikki, with this other meme. That's why I have issues with number one, revisionist history, and then we talk about sometimes revisionist history from the standpoint like we act like we're better off than they were back then just because we have more information, but we're dumber now than we were with access to more information. We're dumber now. It doesn't mean that we're more happy than they were back then just because we have different liberties and freedoms. And we just think that we're better off to the point that we can look back and say, oh, this was wrong for you to think this way. This is wrong for you to behave this way. This is wrong for you to have relational standards in this type of. We try to redefine everything based on our standards. But we get into all that in just a second.
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention when you were talking about ancestors and being respectful, and I'm glad that you said what you said, Denise, because I think that was very poignant. Mm-hmm. You know, and this conversation took place a lot during the last election cycle. Is the, you know, my ancestors, how many Black people died for the rights to vote, how many women died for the rights to be able to vote, but more importantly, how many Black people died because they never even got the right to vote, right? To be able to have the privilege to go in and cast a vote. Like there should be no question about how significant of a moment that is for American history, no doubt whatsoever. But the one thing that I saw get mentioned a lot about that sentiment in the last election cycle was that's not what they died for. These people that they're giving us is not who ancestors died for. They would not have died for motherfuckers to vote for Biden. Mm-hmm. They would not have died for motherfuckers to vote for Kamala or Trump or really anybody right now in the last, most of our election cycles that we've been privy to in our lives. They wouldn't have died for us to vote for those motherfuckers because at the end of the day, just about every single one of them really didn't do shit for anybody except for wealthy white people. Whether it was Democratic or Republican, if it wasn't to pad a white person's pockets and continue to be able to oil the wheel of white supremacy with brown and Black blood, then none of those people would have been voted for. Mm-hmm. So I think to Denise's point, we do have to get uncomfortable. And I think that that's the biggest challenge that we face in this country is that not, you know, there's a meme that we'll talk about men being coddled. Americans have been fucking coddled. We have been coddled and rocked to sleep, but it's the indoctrination of our country. We were born and bred, being indoctrinated with one or the other, that it's not until like right now you have people who are 60 and 70 who are even grasping the concept of not voting and not feeling bad about it because you were ostracized if you didn't vote. You were ostracized if you went independent. Like there was no good way to vote. Like in the whole theory of that's the lesser of two evils, I refuse to subject my vote to one piece of shit because he's just a better piece of shit than the other piece of shit. Like, and I you know, and I know that there's so many layers to this, obviously, right? But at what point do we just start? At what point do we just do? Like, if what we've been doing doesn't fucking work, we have to try something else. And with the things that we're experiencing with the rolling blackouts and the cell phones being down and the power being shut off and the fucking groceries being through the roof and utilities being through the roof, we got a lot of presidential elections left before whatever happened on January 6th becomes some regular shit. Like, it's not going to be too many more years of people struggling when we're spending billions and billions of dollars a month giving money to other countries to be flooded by other people and no accountability and Americans just being fucking flushed down the toilet. Like, at some point, America has to get uncomfortable. So, America, are you not fucking uncomfortable? At what point do you just have to say, I got to do something different? We have to do something different. And we control this motherfucker. We are just led to believe we need these people, these positions of power to guide us because that's what they've made us think. When in reality, these motherfuckers is not around when the lights go off. They're not around when the grocery stores is closed up. You're not around when the checks won't cash, when the banks are fucking tripping on people's deposits and taking shit out and putting shit back. Where are they at then? So we have to make some decisions. And with this political season coming up, we are shown shit show time. Shit show. Like, I can only imagine what every other country watching us has to think about who we are. And then, no shade, but if you saw the thing I posted on Facebook on the Freethinkers page about it was like maybe it was the Air Force general or a Navy general, and he was a trans woman, and it just talked about nothing but inclusion in the military armed services divisions and so on and so forth. Man, the military is trained to fight and defend and protect and kill and ask no fucking questions. We are in trouble over here if those of us that stand on business don't start standing on business. What we have left to give our kids and our grandkids, they're not gonna make it. We can barely make it. They're not gonna make it. So when I was at Walmart last night, this fucking man was like 80 years old working the door, right, trying to check receipts, and you're not gonna check my receipt when I had to put my shit in the basket. I had to put it on the thing. I had to pay for it. I had to bag it up. I'm like, you're not gonna look at my receipt. I work here. Like, you're not gonna check my shit. So as I'm walking out the door, and this old ass 80-year-old super cripple ass man is, saying bye to people. My son says, we have failed if this man is working at this door right now. Mm-hmm. That man is only working at that fucking door because his retirement doesn't pay enough. His pension doesn't pay enough. His Social Security doesn't pay enough. This motherfucking man is 80 years old at 10 o'clock at night working at the goddamn door at Walmart.
And he lives in an RV.
He should be at home.
We have to do something. We got to do something, man.
Yep.
But
no, it's all going to shit. That's what I said. What are you saying, Denise?
But my tax dollars are funding wars, but they don't have no respect for what's going on with the elderly.
Nothing.
And they're steady taking thousands out of our paychecks for Social Security fund that ain't gonna fucking be there when we need it. That's gonna be gone. Mm-hmm. There will be no such thing as Social Security, and we're paying thousands from our paychecks into that.
I need a refund. I'm gonna need that. You're gonna have to run it back. Because when I'm that age, if I don't have my check, run my shit back. Give me the lump sum because I paid into it.
A lot.
And if it's gone, what do you do? Trying to buck the system ain't gonna do us no good when we're 80. They've been talking about not having Social Security since I was younger, since I had my first child. So this conversation, and I don't know if this conversation took place, in my parents and my grandparents or whatever. Like they base their life on fucking retirement. They base their life on being able to be taken care of, at the end of their life because of what they put into the system. Mm-hmm. Some of us don't pay taxes. Some of us don't put into the system. Some of us just literally have money set to the side to be able to try to take care of ourselves because there is going to be no Social Security when it's all said and done. Mm-hmm. We have to do something now, because if we wait anymore, look at how bad we've gotten from waiting for somebody else to do the job, waiting for the right president to fix us, waiting for the right congressman to fix us, the right city council to fix us. They don't care. I listened to Greg Abbott respond to his invitation. So I guess, Greg Abbott is on the short list of potential vice president candidates for Trump, right? And so when I heard this, I literally was like, oh my God, the whole fucking Ku Klux Klan is going to be like running the White House, which they already are anyways, right? But I was like, you have like the two most blatant racists. You got Trump and Abbott. So some reporter was interviewing Abbott, what do you think about Trump, putting you on a short list? And of course he's like, I'm extremely flattered, woo woo. But all he said over and over is, my commitment is to Texas. Why? Because that's where all his fucking money is. All of his money is in Texas infrastructure. All his money is in Texas oil, Texas land, Texas white money. Like, he don't fuck about the USA because it's Texas. Look what we're doing at the border that nobody else is doing, right? Like, he runs this ship the way he wants to, whether you like it or not. But he runs the ship the way the people who voted for him wants him to run the ship. The people who oil those pockets want him to run this shit. And as long as their investments
Right.
are always
The people who
secure,
put him in office, that's how they want him. He wouldn't be in office if they didn't. If that's not what the majority of people. I mean, Texas is still a red state.
very red state. It's the good old boy
Yeah.
state.
So, well, it's outside of the city, it's more than just the major cities. I want to transition over to this other topic.
Ford is the best in Texas.
All right, DQ.
I know. A lot of people thinking that DQ. I think it was somebody I knew. They literally thought like Dairy Queen was only in Texas. I'm like, no, it's not. They just put them commercials out there, make y'all think it's the only place in Texas.
Yeah.
Like there ain't Dairy Queen nowhere. So let's pull up this meme, Nikki. Because I got some holes to poke. I have holes to poke.
All right.
You always love poking holes, man. Something wrong.
No, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Don't forget, Abbott was also a cog in the wheel as that plays a huge part in the oppression of anyone Black and brown through the legal system, because he was the attorney general for what?
Yep.
Years.
Yep.
He was an asshole in court. He was an asshole out of court. I ran into him several times when I was a paralegal. He was not well liked, but people loved him. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No, it's fine. He is a representation of the majority of people in this state. I mean, until you get Black people have missed this for so long. Stop looking at an individual and look at the people who are pushing the machine that pushes this individual. That's the same thing we talk about these rappers and people. Oh, why are you rapping about this? Why are you talking about who's cutting their checks? Pay attention to who's putting these people in the front in the limelight. Every time you focus on the face, then you're missing the real thrust of the energy, because they could. If you got an issue with Sexy Red or Soki Hana, whatever her name is, they can be gone in a second. They'll have somebody replace them by the next week.
Oh, so you mean go after the big fish?
What was that?
It's choppy.
I said, so you mean go after the big fish?
Yes. Who's cutting their check? Go after. Sure. As long as you just focus on the public face, then you always miss it. And
then ironically, if you get into who's cutting the checks, I mean, that's a whole other conversation for a whole other show. Who's cutting them checks? There's only a certain group of people that's cutting them checks, but I won't say the J name, because if you say it on here, then we finna fuck show be shut down. But them check writers, there's a little small group of them.
So Nikki, tell us about this meme that you posted.
The grandma one?
Yes, the grandma one. And,
she laughed.
I mean, give me. I want to hear some context. Give me some feedback, because this is my thrust. My only response that I put on this was it's too many variables to even want for you to even want to post this. You shouldn't go about co-signing on something that's that flimsy and it's just not it's an irresponsible post, in my opinion. But you said you stand on it 10 toes down, so I want to hear.
I did.
Okay,
you were
so
like,
good.
You were like, I don't think you should. What'd you say? I don't think you should have hitched your wagon to this one or something.
Okay.
Like,
let's read the post, y'all.
Yes. And you said you love hitching that way. Okay, so hold on. I need everybody to give me a second on this, because I have some questions and I have some holes to poke, and I don't need you to give any concessions to what we're saying, because you said you stand on this 10 toes down. So I don't need you backing up and saying, well, in most cases, some of the no, I need you to go and stand on this 10 toes down.
Ain't gonna be backing up. Ain't backing up.
Hold on, Q, before you go, can you read the post? Somebody read the post.
Okay, I'll read the post.
You got it? Okay, go ahead.
No, I'll read it. It says, men thinking our grandmas were happy is a product of women keeping their stories private and the culture of coddling men by not telling them things. So you stand on that 10 toes down 100%. That's just gospel truth.
Yes.
Why? Can we ask why first before you go, Q?
Sure. Go ahead. No. Yeah. No. Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah,
And I don't.
Nikki. Anybody?
And I need you to stand 10 toes down on this.
Let's do this. Whoever's standing 10 toes down on the post, tell us why you stand 10 toes down, and then we'll have whoever doesn't agree say why they don't agree.
Well, we already know the ones who don't agree aren't going to be here. They're not going to be in a conversation.
Down this, tell us your give us. Tell us about this, Nikki. I want to hear your how
it's
you
very
support
simple. I mean, really, I feel like it's only the male species that are complicating this extremely, because it's really not complicated. Men thinking our grandmas were happy is a product of women keeping their stories private and the culture of coddling men by not telling them things. Yeah, we always have to keep shit from y'all. We've always had to keep shit from y'all. We have to decide what to and what not to keep from y'all. But oftentimes we have to keep things from men, right? So this relates to the woman who honestly couldn't tell her husband XYZ or ABC, and couldn't live in a home, or didn't live in a home where there was not sexual abuse or physical abuse or emotional abuse or verbal abuse, all of which were, I think, legal for the most part. As long as you're married to a woman, you could beat her, you could rape her, you could certainly withhold her, you could do whatever you wanted to her. She is property. She is something that man owns once they become married, right? So oftentimes you had women, our grandmothers, our mothers, our great grandmothers came up in an era and in a time where we were insignificant people. We were there to run the home. We were there to raise the children. We were there to take care of our man. That didn't mean that our man didn't pay the bills and didn't go to work and didn't make sure that there was food on the family for the children. But oftentimes those same men, like I said, were physically abusive to their women. They were sexually abusive to their women. They were emotionally abusive to their women. They had numerous other wives and families and partners and children throughout town. They, you could say something as simple as, the dynamic of the women and children went to church and the men never did. The men didn't have to go, but the women and children did. Or, certain, children may have gone to school, but the others had to stay back. I mean, there's just so many scenarios in which, when you get into the bigger picture of living in a patriarchal society that is also fueled by religion and or patriarchy. Now, is this every woman's experience all the time? Of course not.
10 toes down, 10 toes down, 10 toes down.
Every woman's story is not the same. This does not say every woman. This doesn't say every single woman in the world. This says men thinking, and this is where y'all get all weedy.
All right, let me run this.
This is where y'all start trying to go another direction and defer from the point being
I'm not going in another direction. I'm sticking strictly to this post. I promise you, I'll stick strictly to this post. So you're telling me, if a man thinks that his grandmother was happy, it's only because they were keeping stories private from them, and they were telling the whole truth.
I think that absolutely there are stories that our mothers and our grandmothers never told the men in the family because they had to keep that amongst themselves. Absolutely. So a lot of times y'all look at your grandparents, a lot of times we look at our grandmothers as, she was the martyr and she held it down for everybody. And that's not to say she didn't. You talk about Big Mama. Yeah, Big Mama had a role to play. And oftentimes those were significant roles within the entire family system. But if you got Big Mama alone by herself with some people who were not related to her family or her church or anybody who could condemn her to be able to share how she felt, I guarantee you would hear Grandma or Big Mama or Auntie or some of them say some things that you never would have thought would have come out of that household. I thought everything was fine. My grandma was fine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're also implying that, and I'll rephrase this in a question in just a second. You're also implying that there were no grandmothers that were happy.
No, that's not what at all is being applied. This says that.
Okay, hold on. Men thinking so any man who think that their grandmother was happy, it's all because, or it is. Let me not put what it is a product.
Yeah, let's not put words in there because there's no words in there.
I correct myself. Okay. So it's a product of them keeping their story private. So they really weren't happy. They just kept it private. And we believe that they were happy just because they didn't tell us the whole story. Is that what you're saying, or is that
Absolutely.
you agree with that's what the post says?
Yes, that's exactly what it says. I don't misunderstand the words in that post at all. Does it also say every single woman in the planet, every single relationship, every single husband? No. Never do we ever just monolith one particular group of people as everybody has the same experience. So the fact that that's even being looked at like that is a little bit like ridiculous to me.
But no,
What?
but no, Nikki, the reason I'm holding you to the fire is because I said it probably would have been better for you to reword it and give proper context. There is very simple in this post for some people to put a most in front of men. If they believe it was most, if they say most men thinking our grandmothers, half of the men thinking our grandmothers, some men thinking our, but they just put men that gave it an absolute connotation. So if you're agreeing with that, then I was like, yeah, you just way off. You shouldn't be hitching you shouldn't be hitching your wagon to that.
No,
Number one, let me keep going down the line though, because well, first of all, I don't believe that every grandmother was unhappy.
Right, and I don't either. But I believe that a majority of women, if you had conversations with them authentically and honestly, I believe a majority of women would definitely share with you some things that you had no clue. Because it is in our nature to not upset. It is in our nature to not ruffle feathers. It is in our nature to not disturb our family system. So we better just shut it on up and keep on doing what we've been told to do.
Then you don't agree with the post.
I absolutely agree with the post.
No, you don't. Denise, jump. I got questions, but Denise, jump in. I ain't even got started yet. Go ahead, Denise.
Okay, so there's a few things that I find wrong with this post, but the first thing is like, if grandmas are keeping everything to the chest, how do we know if they were or were not happy? Because if they're never saying whatever it is, we don't know if they were happy or not. The other thing I will say, just from personal experience, I think to go back to kind of what I was suggesting that we could get into is like comparing and contrasting like how we view family dynamics and how we view relationships versus how they viewed family dynamics and relationships. Because I can tell you, my grandma has told me a lot of stuff, and my grandma and my grandfather was not perfect at all, but she was happy with this man. That's the crazy thing about, like, my grandmother never took her ring off to her dying day. When I was a little girl, I used to try to take it off her finger. It was literally stuck. She couldn't take it off. She loved this man, and she told me all of the stories, and she was happy. She would still talk about him like she was 20 years old. And it's not to say that the things that he did was okay, but I think our viewpoint and how we view relationships and dynamics and what happiness is versus how they viewed it is totally different. And keep in mind, both of my grandparents, my grandmother didn't have to be there. Both of my grandparents went to college, and they both went to a state college. But granted, like when we add context to it, like they were in college in the 40s. You know what I mean? They were together before there were voting rights. You know what I mean? Like my grandfather got a college degree as an architect, but he could not work as an architect because no one would hire him because he was Black. So he had to have his own business. My grandmother was actually the breadwinner. You know, it was like the dynamics were very interesting. So I know most women's situation is not that. But I think there's just a difference in how we view happiness. And we wouldn't know if our grandmothers are happy if they're not speaking to it or not. We don't know if they're happy or not.
Denise, let me say this, Denise, and that's a part of where I was going to as well. Let's go back to the post again. I ain't even gonna go to the men and women part of it, first of all. But we talking about men thinking our grandmas were happy is a product of women keep. So now we're talking about, if this post is talking about misinformed men based upon their grandmas withholding something, you're talking about children or teenage or very young people when you're talking about a grandma versus a boy, especially in that generation. Our grandmas was grown. So again, what grandmas in that generation is telling little kids all of their business?
They're not. That's the point. They're not telling.
So
They're keeping it to themselves as not to upset the other folks.
Misleading. And we can say the same thing. So even hold on. So even we're going to men thinking that. What was I'm sorry, and Denise, I'll use your example.
Mm-hmm.
As you became an adult, maybe your grandmother told you more. Did she tell you all of those juicy details when you were a kid?
Until I was in my 30s.
But we're talking about grandmas when it pertaining to men, and it's so you're still, it's the huge age gap to where nobody that age would even tell people of an age at that time, men or women. So why are you singling out men when there's a clear generation gap where grown people, you stay out of grown folk business, and even in that generation they were even more secretive than they are now. So again, this post is so misleading because it's giving this, it's leading you to believe that men were blinded because the people were trying to protect them, but it's so many other variables that you should not have hitched your wagon. I still got more. I'm just getting started, but you can jump in and say something else.
No,
let's not forget that. Don't forget that this was a time that, our grandparents were in a time where women couldn't ask for divorce. So there was a time period where a woman couldn't just go ask for a divorce. It had to come from the man. It had to be the man's idea. And 9 times out of 10, the woman didn't have the money to pay for that divorce. She knew she wasn't going to be able to get a house. And if she did, it was going to be in the slums. She knew she couldn't get a job because she had 5 kids she just gave birth to, because families were much bigger back then. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a point where, because one of my grandmothers had 8 kids. The other one had 6. One was married to a hard ass who wouldn't take her to the doctor ever. She fought through diseases and illnesses I can't even imagine. The other one divorced him at 70. That's how sick of him she was. So because she felt the freedom at 70 to do that, right? They both told me stories here and there, but the one thing that stuck with me, the grandmother who didn't get the divorce told me.
Stephanie, real quick, when did they tell you those stories?
All the way through about 18, all the way until about 35. So the stories would come and go. Not as a little kid, but one of the things that I picked up on was she hated him until she loved him. She was just there. So there was no other place for her to go. They slept in different rooms. They hung out on different sides of the house until finally one day they put their lounge chairs next to each other. And that was the end of that conversation. And that was the end of the idea of splitting up. So I don't know. I think, I don't know if it means that they were happy or not. I just know that some women in those days back then were stuck. Divorce wasn't an option.
That's true. That is very true.
But I do feel like the post is a little generalizing.
Thank you. I was about to say, Steph, it's perfectly fine for you to say some or half, or maybe even you might feel that more than half or whatever. But I think that's okay. But that's why I said it's probably proper for you to reword that, because this post is misleading.
She probably generalized a little bit, but I can see what she's talking about.
Stephanie, my response to Nikki was, this is a incredibly sweeping generalization. That's what I said. And she said, Nikki, you said you stand 10 toes down on it.
I don't see what's so difficult about it. The only people that really have the hardest time with this are men. Men seem to have the most difficult time with this.
You got 2 people on here already. Everybody on here says that this post has holes in it. Everybody on here except for you says this post has holes in it.
Because it's common sense that everything is not a monolithic statement. This is like one of the only comments where we're doing this, right? We can post 9 million memes all week long and don't nobody get into the motherfucking weeds of what percentage
we are literal as
versus what percentage of men and what age and what year and what like we don't get into all that, and all of a sudden now we start talking about unhappy grannies, and now folks in their feelings because men have been coddled to not be told the truth.
No, I was gonna say we just had an incident a few months ago where these men folks was doing this with these very blanket statements about women, and I was hot, and I was calling them out. And so I'm not going to say that people don't get smoke for that, because some people just got some smoke for it a month ago. Stop with the blanket statements about ladies, please. And so when
did I not
men
get on
say,
live and
"Do
do it? Did I not help do an impromptu live
You
too
did.
and talk
You
about
did,
some of that
'cause I was
stuff?
hot about it. So I'm not going to now say that we can make blanket statements about men when I was just hot about that last month. So
And I got on. I'm like, no, let's do it live. And I invited. I even poked at some people hoping that they'd get on, because I'm like, these statements that y'all making is ridiculous, and this is another ridiculous statement on the opposite side. All right, listen. If y'all want to go to the next, what time? We at 1:30 right now. I mean, if y'all want to go another 10,
I just don't see. I mean, I don't see the difficulty in it. The unfortunate part is that you're getting lost in that part, as opposed to the point behind what was said is how often women have to be quiet, how often women cannot share their feelings, how often women cannot be honest about what is taking place in life, that we have to bite our tongue and we have to be the
sure can hold some secrets.
And we have to endure things that we shouldn't have to endure for the sake of safety, for the sake of security, for the sake of our longevity. And that's not to say that women don't do men dirty either. That's not what that says either. It just simply says that if we have more conversations with our grandmothers, honest, transparent conversations by people who would not judge her religiously, morally, ethically, educationally, socially, culturally, if women were able to have honest conversations about what they've endured, like I said in the post, as vaginas with legs, as opposed to a man's experience in this world, as a husband, as a provider, as a whatever the case may be, we would hear some things from our grandmothers and our mothers that you never would have thought was their life, because what you saw growing up was happy. What you saw growing up was good. What I felt was love. So it couldn't be bad. My grandfather couldn't have been doing this. He couldn't have been doing that. My dad couldn't have been doing this. And that's not to say that every household had some fucked up shit happening. Duh. But if we sat down with more women than none, you'd be real surprised how many women have a story that doesn't necessarily match with maybe what your experience was of them growing up. And that's because we keep that shit from y'all. We keep it from our children.
Nikki,
we keep it from them.
Nikki, the reason I'm drilling this so hard and I'm going to keep drilling it is because my response to you in this post was giving the opportunity to lend context, and you doubled down on it. I have it right here. I said, this is what I said, the same thing. There's a lot to unpack with this, but this post has sweeping generalization all over it. This post lacks context, history, and true perspective. An ounce of truth doesn't make a statement true. You shouldn't have hitched your wagon to this one. And then you said, oh no, I love having hitched to it. And I said, or redefine it in your own words with proper context. Otherwise, the statement is just off. And you want it. So now when you're saying I'm doubling down and tripling down on this, okay, now I'm gonna come at it like this. And everybody else is saying that this statement is off. And now you saying, of course, a duh. I gave you the opportunity to say duh when I responded to the post, and you didn't. That's why I said at the beginning.
It's all over in the post. I repeatedly explained my position on the post.
I think you're absolutely wrong. And the people on here not directly saying it, but everybody else says the post has holes in it, so they're saying that you're wrong too.
I don't care. I
said she was wrong. I just said the post was
like I said, an ounce of truth does not make a statement true.
An ounce of truth doesn't make the statement real, but what isn't real about the statement? What if the statement was a lie? What was incorrect? What was the lie? What was not truthful? What was not the truthful part to it?
Lack of context, like Denise and Stephanie also talked about the history and people at that time.
Doesn't make it not truthful.
You're making it, like she said, you can't, how, if they're not talking, how do you know if they were happy or not? I could just keep going on with the holes in this.
So back to my point, if you were a woman and you had learned experiences
Denise
as
is
a
woman.
vagina with legs,
Stephanie is a woman.
you
Ivory
would
is a woman.
acknowledge and you would identify some of this.
No, Stephanie, Denise, and Ivory are all women, as well as yourself.
We got our hands up.
Now,
I'm sorry.
Can I say this?
I'm sorry, Ivory, Denise, go ahead. I'm sorry.
To be fair, man, ain't no boy trying to hear this. Ain't no boy going to talk to their grandma about none of this shit. Like, when it comes,
you'd be surprised.
Well, okay, I'll say this. Usually, when it comes to men, to Nikki's point about the coddling, right? Certain things you can't. Certain things, it's true. You can't tell men. It's true. You can't tell them. And certain things, they don't want to know. Mm-hmm. It's true. They don't. Certain kind of conversations, they're not going to have. When it comes down to family dynamics and taking care of certain things, if you're the daughter, it's going to be you. Mm-hmm. Like we got to be real about that part too. However, when we look at the actual post saying that women are coddling men, is it men's fault for not being aware of things they're not being told? Who takes responsibility when it comes to that piece?
Well, and this I'm gonna just make this. I think going back to Nikki's point, if we get past the fact that it didn't lend the proper context from the beginning, so let's move past that. We've beaten that like a dead horse.
Said that? Who said that?
Listen, no, I'm saying
who said Nikki, that, Ivory? I'm asking.
I'm gonna tell you. Nikki said, once we start talking about it, she was like, of course, this is not everybody, but I'm trying to get to the meat of what I think this post is saying. We have ridden that horse, we beat it, it's dead. Okay, so let me get to the next part of it. I don't care what you think. I'm telling you, the horse is dead. So the next part of it is the context of it is in this context of these gender wars online right now. This is still a part of the gender wars online. So this is a female part of the gender wars. Let's be honest. This is a overarching theme online, and this is a part of the gender wars. So part of the gender war is men keep saying, see, if you were like our grandmother's generation or the last generation or the generation before, then you would be happier or you wouldn't be single or you wouldn't be these things. Yeah. So this part of the gender war is saying, you don't know, they wasn't happy. It's still like two sides of a very dysfunctional coin to me. Yes. The way we make these arguments, right? Because again, we don't really know. And this is the thing. Is it about women coddling men, or is it just about our grandparents being secretive? Well, some of them were secretive with all of us, not just men.
That's my point. Thank you.
A lot of women don't know what their grandmother went through. So how you can't say you just coddle women, or we're to this point too, right? Some of this is just gender stuff. Because grandpa maybe didn't tell you that he bought the food and didn't eat. Grandpa didn't tell you that he worked 2 shifts and 2 jobs and didn't get no sleep, and that car wreck he got into was from the second job. Some of us ladies have been coddled by men and their responsibilities. I just don't like the gender wars because there's so many
Thank you, Ivory.
things that we leave out when we go on these kind of gender. So I just wanted to bring up the overarching theme. It is a gender war. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ivory. I agree with that 100%. That's why I don't think you should hitch your wagon to people who have these gender wars. The same way I went in on the men who was doing that, then I'm gonna do it on the other side. Because anytime that you're speaking in absolutes, you're gonna be almost wrong 99% of the time.
There's differences in making statements and literally inciting gender war type of topics. And ironically, the men who commented that this is an attack or a gender war are the men I would generally expect would respond that way. However, what I'm trying to get down to, the bottom line behind every way I commented on that post, the bottom line being, we can't change what we don't acknowledge. So acting like this shit is not a part of women's fabric and us trying to get rid of the gender war, you have to stop denying that experiences happen before we can move forward. And acting like experiences don't happen, not acknowledging situations for what they are and saying, oh, we need to just get past that. Well, goddamn. At what point do we get to acknowledge what has happened so that we can move past certain things, so that we can grow from there? But no, we get stuck on the, oh, well, all men and all women and everybody. Yeah. Everybody knows everything ain't every goddamn buddy every single time somebody says something.
That, Nikki.
But and I said it in the post.
You may have made the mistake of lumping me in with all the rest of those men, and I'm looking directly at the post.
When do I ever clump all people in with all sentiments?
I don't know why you. I don't know why you would stand down on this post.
Never have, never will, never did, never could.
I'm listening to what you mentioned. You just got done saying that most of the men on this post, by the way,
I said those that responded, I'm not surprised, responded the way that they did.
Exactly.
It's them certain ones.
I don't know. Maybe I'm guessing that you may have lumped me in there.
The ones that have the most issues with women are the ones that responded in that post.
I clearly gave you an opportunity to step back and look at it from a contextual standpoint. And you like, no, I stand down on it.
Yeah, and I still stand by what I said.
And I think, okay. Yeah.
And that's okay.
I don't know how you stand. I don't know how you stand on that though.
Because you can't change. Hold on, back up. You can't change what we don't acknowledge. And we stay trying to deny stuff because Granny was
stand on it when you just got done saying, well, of course, we're not talking about everybody. Well, then you're not standing on the post.
Yes, I am.
Because the post is...
Yes, I am. Because one of the reasons why one of the reasons why it is the way it is because women coddled men. Yes, period. End of story. Yes, I stand by that.
Jump in, Denise.
Yeah, I gotta close y'all argument on this so we can go to the next.
Disagree.
We're almost done now. I knew this was gonna happen.
We disagree to disagree. That's okay.
I knew this was gonna happen.
But we gotta get a final point on this.
Listen, final point is I think last 2 weeks y'all was looking for some smoke, so I'm like, all right, let's get some smoke. Y'all said it wasn't enough smoke on the last 2 episodes. I'm like, all right.
Smoke shit. Look. I just wish that some of them men who was on that post who had so much to say when they always have so much to say.
If they would have come on here,
but they won't. They won't.
I would have been disagreeing with them if they would have came on here.
They won't, and they don't. They won't. And that was my point behind the whole entire thing.
Get on here and drop your scrotums. Say it with your chest.
Shit, I don't have a problem saying it with my chest. That's what I was happy to hitch to it.
I'm talking about the men you calling out. Say get on here and drop your scrotums and say it with your chest. Stop being a keyboard warrior.
And it was, I still think it was a good.
And Nikki, hold on, Nikki, I absolutely disagree with you again because you know good and well you got to get every comma and capital when it's on Freethinkers. You can't be you better get the context right or somebody gonna point it out. And you can't say, well, of course we know everybody. No,
here I am, and here
call you out on Freethinkers if you're not being exact, they're gonna call you out.
And here she goes.
I get very careful. I get very careful with my words because I know if I say half a thing off, then they gonna come. They coming for you. If you say one word off,
come on in.
Don't act like I didn't peep that Usher reference you just made. I don't think I didn't peep that.
Denise, you know what I do when I post on Freethinkers? I say, I don't know about this, guys, but what do you think?
I don't know about this, guys, but what do you think?
But it is kind of always the same men that comment on posts about women. It really is.
Immediately, the second you say anything that might be unsavory to anything with the penis, it's like the hit dog troop comes yelping so fucking fast. Shout out to you because you know who you are. And it's that to me is the gender war. That to me is where the man versus woman keeps continuing to get fueled at, as opposed to, damn, let me see what this woman might be saying about a woman's experience being a woman, a mother, a grandmother, a woman, a woman, something that a man never is. Just like women shouldn't speak for men because women will never be men. But that's not, it went every other fucking direction except the point I was trying to make about us having to keep things from our men partners, from children, from people, to keep up the image of happiness so that everybody thinks everything is good. When I close this door at night as a grown old ass woman who to raise children and babies and husband and whatever, how much she cries or how much she's disappointed or how much she's lives for just her children. And is that every single woman? Of course not. Nothing is all.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure.
This is to the women on the panel. In speaking to this topic that's been going on for the past half hour or so, why do women withhold that type of information and keep it within themselves for such a long period of time and don't express it? Like, doesn't that, eat alive at a woman that, keeps something so sacred and secretive that she will take it to her grave and she won't speak on it? Like, is it like an infestation, a cancerous thing or a deal? Like, I'm just curious.
Let me just say my perspective really quick, especially when it comes to our grandmothers. And of course, I'm going to have to use my own personal perspective with my grandmother. And some of it's what Denise said. I think a lot of it's just generational, and that their priorities were very different than ours are now. Mm-hmm. And so even when we use the term happiness, right? Maybe some of them weren't happy, but they didn't even place happiness as high on an importance as a lot of times we do. Mm-hmm. A lot of times for them, it was stability, it was legacy, it was family, it was all of these
community,
things. So even community, your church community, your neighborhood, all of these things were placed so high on their list of priorities, at least in my world, that my grandmothers did share a lot with me, but it was around those areas, right? Mm-hmm. It was around legacy and how do you keep a family together? How do you strengthen your community? How do you strengthen your children? How do you build something that lasts for generations? And so the wisdom, the information I was getting and the life lessons they were teaching were about the things they found the most important to them. Mm-hmm. And at the time, that wasn't about that my grandpa was getting on their nerves. That wasn't like high on their list of things to share with their granddaughter. So I don't know if it's about holding things and feeling bad on the inside, or just that they had completely different priorities than we have now sometimes. Mm-hmm.
And Ivory, that's why I think this post had more validity from a generational standpoint than a gender standpoint. That was my biggest thing. I'm like, everything that you're saying, you look at it from a generation standpoint more than a gender standpoint, because when they keep saying men, well, they wasn't telling me as a little boy, but they wasn't telling little girls everything either. And like Ivory said, they'll tell you certain things, cultural, community, things like that, but their personal business, there wasn't a lot of people in that generation telling you about their personal business. That's a generational thing. It's not gender. Like, it's totally off base, in my opinion.
Because women can generally identify with women, just like boys identify with men, girls identify with women. So women identify with things differently because of the women's experience, just like men identify with certain things and can only identify because of the men's experience. Men are never going to have a woman's experience, and women are never going to have the men's experience. We just can't. So the whole point of that meme wasn't to necessarily say, it's a gender war thing. It's women being able to identify that the reason why oftentimes grandma never shared or we never learned about some of those things was because generally the women understand the association. We don't tell the men this stuff. We certainly wouldn't tell children. We shouldn't be telling children our problems today. That's not about generation, but certainly back then it was about pride.
About grandmothers to that in itself is the post is problematic when it's talking about grandmothers. And I'll also say this: a lot of information that I didn't get from my grandmothers, I end up getting after I got a certain age. Then my mother would tell me certain things about my grandparents that it just came with time and maturity for you to be able to, okay, I think they can handle this, or okay, well, I ain't got that much time left. I might as well tell you it don't matter now. Or since you're also married and you also have children and a mortgage, you may be able to identify with this differently than at that time. But it's a generational thing more than it is a gender thing. I think the same thing how my mother tells me stuff is the same thing probably with my sister. She probably wasn't telling my sister everything about what her mom and dad, but after a certain age and certain experiences, then it comes out. It's generational, not gender. The post was off.
I definitely disagree, but that's all right.
What was the question you Hukanon posed? Because my
he asked why we keep things inside. Why do women keep hurt?
Oh, I can tell
happiness inside. Why don't we share these stories sooner instead of letting them fester?
I can tell you. I won't get into details, but sometimes, or I'll speak from my own personal experience, but I will say there are times where I may not tell my brother something to protect them from themselves. If I know that I tell this man in my life that X, Y, or Z happened, and he's probably going to go to jail behind this information, sometimes we hold things in to protect them. And it's sad that you do feel like you got to hold so many things close like that. But I think women are just like, we have been, to Nikki's point, conditioned to bear like so much of the weight, emotional weight of so many things. And that's where the whole coddling piece comes in. Because to a point, it's like some men are trained to protect you. They're wired to protect you. So if you know that this man is wired to protect you, you know that he cannot have this information without going and taking it. And now he needs to go protect you. Now he's dead. Now he's in jail. Like some of it's that. Some of it we were taught to push our feelings down and just not talk about how we feel, again, to protect whomever. So women, I think a lot of it is not putting ourselves first emotionally.
Well, you talked about, Denise, protecting others, but a lot of it is protecting ourselves too.
Yep.
If we're in an abusive relationship of any sort, it doesn't have to be physical. But if we're in an emotionally abusive relationship, if we are in a physically abusive relationship, if we are in a financially abusive relationship, or we are in a sexually abusive relationship, if we are enduring abuses of a variety of different types, it's just safer to keep this shit inside. It's better for everybody if I just keep this inside. And since I've already taken the licks, since I've already taken the hits, since I've already, been forced to have sex with a man I didn't want to have sex with, since I've already been forced to give up all of my paycheck, or I can't even work outside the house, since I've already been forced to endure these things, it doesn't matter what I say, because no one's going to listen anyways, because that household is doing it, and that household is doing it, and that house, and then, God forbid, I'm educated, or I'm a community member, or I'm a member of the church, or I'm a mother with children. Now I got everybody and their mama looking at me, rating my life, quantifying what kind of woman I am, because as they keep their secrets, how dare I tell secrets? How dare you shake the boat for the rest of us? So should we keep secrets? No, we shouldn't be keeping secrets. Secrets will eat you alive. But oftentimes secrets are kept as a defense mechanism, as a safety feature, whether it's for me or that person, to Denise's point. I'm sure that there were many of women over the generations of abused women who told other people to continue to still be abused, or to be told, well, that's just what your husband is supposed to do, or that's your role as a wife. Is that everybody's experience? Of course not. Every woman has never experienced all of those things. but a large number of women in a patriarchal society that is also led by religion is oftentimes we are the bottom of the fucking barrel. We hold that shit by ourselves every single day. So this is the association between women understanding how grandma feels the way she feels and why men don't even understand it, because we've kept it for so fucking long, because we have to. It's just better that way. The amount of shit that our grandparents took to the grave, the amount of shit our parents will take to the grave, the amount of shit we will take to the grave that our children may never know. It's a continuous cycle. I think it maybe hopefully gets better as we come into these newer ages as opposed to the generational conversation. But if we don't live in a safe society with safe men, why would we tell things that are not safe to be told? Does that mean every man is not safe? Absolutely not. But this is the dynamic in which a lot of women are finding themselves in today, is if it's not emotionally safe, if it's not physically safe, I'll be by myself. I'm not saying anything. I will keep in my lane and avoid at all costs people who might threaten my safety, threaten my peace.
I was also gonna just say, and not to take away from anything that he's saying, especially when it comes to abuse. Of course, most people in abusive situations learn to stuff things down, right? But even from a different perspective, when you're talking about women learning not to share as much emotionally with men, on some level, it's healthy. On some level, we have, in I think our modern day relationships, put way too much pressure on the person we are with to hold up all of these emotional things for us. When you do need to call a friend sometime, you do need to go to counseling. Like, so sometimes it's like, oh, we couldn't tell them. Well, who are you telling and why do you need to tell them so much? Let's just be honest, okay? And so I always give ladies this example too, because we talk about sometimes not being able to share all of our emotions. But I don't want to hear my husband talk about I'm crushing under the weight of work every week. I don't want to hear it. Now, if that happens periodically, he's really going through, sure. But your role as a man is to protect and provide for me. My role as a woman, a lot of times, is going to be an emotional support system. I don't know how much complaining each one of us can do about our role without the other person eventually thinking, you don't like your role. So I'm just saying, sometimes in these older generations, people kind of understood their role a little bit better. Some of these men are really whiny about protecting and providing. I don't like that either. Stop whining so much. And sometimes
stop being
ladies
so
are
sassy.
like, I need somebody to cry to. Call a friend. Your husband is not the person for you to cry to every day about your feelings.
Not every day.
So for
not
me,
every day.
And for me, sometimes that's true, Ivory, because for me, sometimes I feel like I've already processed what happened to me. I don't want to give it any more power by telling someone else, because they're going to want to talk about it too. And if I've already processed it and I'm either eternally pissed about it or I've made peace with it, that's for me. And if I end up telling somebody else, they may not ever bring it up again, but the power of that issue lives in their mind as well. And sometimes I just want it to stay with me,
That's good.
That's real good, Stephanie.
That's real good. So Denise, the other thing. So when I was, and I know I'm still connecting this back to the post because I keep saying I disagree with the post, but even when you were, sorry, but even when you were talking about certain things that you have to keep from your brothers or something because of what it may lead to or something like that, then it was like, yeah, I get that. I mean, I get that. But so the thing is, when like in the post, when they use the term coddle, and then I'm like, hold on, let me double check and make sure I understand the definition of coddle. And it talks to treat with extreme or excessive care, like to the point of like excessive extreme. And I'm like, even in situations where you feel like, in order to keep my brother out of jail, I may not want to tell. I don't feel like that's coddling. I feel like that's being mature on your part to know how to help your family stay out of potentially harmful situations. There's, again, and that's just not just a women thing. There's certain people who because when you say coddle, then it's like you're trying to protect them from something like they can't handle. And I know people as well who might be able to handle it a little too well. And I don't need you to handle it that well. So in instances, when you're talking about, I think that this post was purposefully made in a way to strike gender wars, and I think they were successful. And I think they purposefully used certain language and phraseology in order to take it to extremes. And I just wanted to point out that nothing in life is extreme, and
we couldn't have lived how our grandmothers lived, and our grandmothers could never live the way we live. No way. So to try to compare the two vastly different worlds is almost impossible. I could not have had eight babies 8 years in a row so they could work on our farm. Ain't no fucking way. And my grandmother, there's no way she could do what I'm doing right now by myself. No way.
Let me tell you, my grandmother was the happiest woman in the world, and it wasn't because she got to go out to the club every night or she wanted a whole bunch of money. She loved her children. She loved her family. They all knew the Lord and they were saved, and they all became successful and they had family. And I mean, she was so happy. She'd be at the point of tears and shouting because she just look at what the Lord did, blessing my family. And she just so ecstatic. I mean, she died the happiest woman you can ever imagine. And it wasn't the same standard as what a lot of people in today's society would say, this is what's going to make me happy. So again, it's two different standards. So in our age, men and women, we can't put what our standards are, and we even think it's our standards, the standards that we take into our ears and our eyes, and what the media tells us, this is what happiness looks like. And we done ate it up. And now we're chasing this carrot that we may or may not ever get. And then we'll get so old to the point, then you be like Solomon, like, vanity, vanity. What was all this for in the first place? I'm chasing after all of this stuff, and at the end of the day, it don't mean anything. A lot of them understood. They had a different definition of what happiness was, and they were extremely happy. That don't mean they ain't go through a lot of shit. Just like we done went through a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
That don't mean I done went through a whole lot of shit. That don't mean I ain't happy. So just the fact that you go through things, that you've been cheated on, that you had issues and got your ass beat, all type of stuff, that doesn't define my overall happiness. That's life. And when you learn to make it through life and you appreciate the things that God has given you around that, then you still happy. And somebody else might say, well, look, that's like what Smack was talking about. Well, how you gonna be happy and you broke? Well, I don't define my happiness off of material things.
Yeah. It's all relative. It's relative because like when I think about what my grandmother, and I think about like if my grandmother was born in 1926, her father died when she was 2. I would assume, and I think it was from like pneumonia. And when I think about like my grandmother's parents' generation, a lot of the men were doing very hard labor. So to even have a man in the household after a certain like age was probably like, to even be able to do that was a blessing, much less like him actually be alive. You know, so even that gives like a different context and a different like understanding. But for sure, like to your point, Stephanie, like I couldn't have withstood half the shit my grandmother withstood. Like they had a different kind of strength. They had a different kind of like just steadfastness, and like I don't know. I don't know how I don't know. I really don't.
So I wonder if happy was kind of the only choice they had. You know.
And a lot of happiness is a mindset too. We complain too much in America. Just tell the truth. Us new age people. India, I don't know if you remember this, Denise. India Ari did a song called "There's Hope," and in that song, she had a story talking about she was on some island or whatever, this poor country, and she met this boy who was blind and didn't have anything, and he asked her how was the USA, and she was like, all I was doing was just complaining and this and this and that, and he was blind and poor. He was like, hey, it's beautiful, it's wonderful here, this paradise where I live. Just go back and listen to the song when she talk about just hope. But it's a matter of perspective. Somebody blind living on a poor island is like, yo, I live in paradise, this is great. And India Ari, who got everything that she needed and want, she was just complaining. Perspective.
That's good.
Okay, we had 2:04. Did we get it all out? Did we
did we have to close early?
It seems like
this ain't early.
And it calmed down now.
We didn't tackle sleeping their way to the top, but we can probably do that.
Oh, we did not do sleeping to the top.
Somebody sleeping their way to the top.
I say this.
Another one when the boys got in their feelings.
Oh, they did. They really got into their feelings on that.
I say this. We go another 25 minutes since I was doing all that talking and I didn't give people a chance to get in.
All that talking since you've been talking.
I knew I was though. I'm all right.
So do we want to do it? Sleep our way to the top?
We ain't got enough time.
Now you want to hop out. You don't want to talk about those issues.
You got 25 minutes if y'all want to do it.
We here. We got the feet.
Let's see what we can do in 25 minutes. I got about 35 minutes to get to the house. Let's go.
So I'll say this: my view on that post is probably the equivalent to Q's view on the grandma post. I just feel like it's just so much information. It's like as a blanket statement with no detail, it don't even really make sense as a post to like, it's like no accountability at all. Like instead of saying women slept their way to the top, we should say men withhold promotions until they receive sexual favors because that's what it really is. Oh man, it just lacks so much nuance. That's like, and then there's like no one's forcing you to
exactly what I was saying.
No one's forcing you to sleep with anyone. This is a choice you're making. This goes back to choice. You choose to sleep with someone. You choose to do that. You do not have to do that. You don't even have to sleep with someone. If someone said to anybody on this call right now, either you sleep with me, you lose your job, and you can't feed your family.
Bro, how many
other way to go feed your family?
How many people took a vaccine to keep their job? It's the same concept. Like literally, people took the fucking vaccine because they were going to lose their job. Women will give their vagina to a man who's going to let them go or give me some cat. Because if you don't give me what I want, you're going to lose your job. Now I'm unemployed. How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to pay my bills? The job market. Yes, of course we can say no. But I'm going to guess that you've never had your body leveraged over a position that you needed really, really bad. Because most of the time, unless the woman is choosing to sleep her way to the top, and there are plenty of women who will sleep their fucking way to the top, which is why I said that's a conversation for itself. We definitely need to talk about the women who have chosen to sleep their way to the fucking top. This is the women who wouldn't have had an opportunity to get to the top or to the next level had they not given the man who was going to promote them sexual favors.
Or future opportunities were threatened.
So yes, you can definitely say no. You can surely say no. But if the repercussion is drastic, and your company is run by men who already don't give a shit if you go to HR, you're going to have to find another job. And yes, you can do that.
And you may not.
Or you may not. Or you just give him a little bit of ass real quick and then he'll shut up. And unfortunately, that's the society. That's corporate America. That's literally corporate America. So it goes back to the grandmother post, the patriarchal society in which we live in. Yes, we can say no. And I applaud women that do. But how many women lose everything by saying no?
It goes back to like the voting thing. Like you have a choice. I just can't even fathom that. I'm talking about my mom has quit jobs for less. Like I like it wouldn't matter what you did. Like you tell me I'm losing my job, I'm not gonna be able to pay my bills, I'm gonna go get it out the mud. I don't even want to be in a place where I have to have sex to get a promotion. I don't care what it is. It's called integrity. You cannot then act like someone else is the issue because you lack integrity. You chose to have sex for your benefit. Whatever the benefit was, you chose it, sit with that decision, move on. But what you can't do is say that you're a victim when you chose to sleep your way anywhere. If you chose not to, then you can say you're a victim. But if you chose to do that, that's on your body.
I don't know how
On
much,
your body.
I don't know how high up on the corporate ladder of corporate America you have swung before, and I feel what you're saying 100%. And I say that because you can't fire me. I don't have a boss. Until the day I have to clock in for somebody else, I do what the fuck I want, how I want, when I want, within the confines of what I want. I didn't have to go get a vaccine to keep a job. I don't have to do a lot of things to keep a job. However, those that have to work in positions where you have to do certain shit or you're out of here, when you work in a corporate system long enough, around players long enough, that is unfortunately the environment that a lot of male-dominated corporations operate from. And it's wrong and it's fucked up. But just like white supremacy runs the way it's designed to, so does a male-dominated corporate America. Now, if all women who were in those positions said, fuck y'all, left, file reports, and so on and so forth, then maybe some traction would happen. But right now, we're disposable. Every woman that says no is disposable. They'll just get another one and another one and another one and another one. So the system doesn't change because it works for them. We, however, those of us who have been canned because we said no, because we had integrity, we are continuously being kicked around. And they don't work in an environment or in a profession where they talk. Because if you've been ostracized from this tech company or this company or this company, those big wigs talk. Don't hire that bitch. Yeah. Don't hire that bitch. Don't hire that bitch.
I've personally witnessed that. So I am the devil in so many of the jobs that I've had because I'm human resources. It's what I've done for 22 years. For 22 years, I've watched this happen, and you can and will be stonewalled out of the only industry that you might know, whether it's software or marketing or, whatever industry you're in. If you don't play your cards right, you may not lose your job at that company, but you ain't going to get the next job at the other company. People do talk.
And you just saying as far as keeping your job. So, let me ask you, Stephanie. So, number one, are you speaking of something? Is this the norm in today's day, or are you talking about before? Like, are you
I haven't
talking
seen
about
it.
10,
I haven't
15
seen
years
it
ago?
as much. No, modern industry.
Okay, because that's one of the things that I was thinking. Like today, you can't get away with a goddamn.
No, you cannot.
From what I see, you can't get away with nothing at all.
You will end up on TikTok. You can't get away with shit.
quick. I'm like, man, you listen. Even when I was in management, I wasn't gonna be in no room with nobody by themselves. I wasn't sneezing. I wasn't telling no jokes. You talk about I was the most boring person in the world because y'all ain't gonna even misinterpret nothing out of me. And I've seen it happen so many times. And just off of in today's society, your ass is out the door. Now, maybe not everybody, but me being a black man, my ass be out the door. So that was my first question. But then the other question I was gonna ask you as far as when accusations are made, how are they handled and treated? Are there people encouraging you to sweep it under the rug? Is it immediate action taken? And I guess that's a question of now versus 15 years ago or 20 years ago, like
right.
No, investigations happen right away. I mean, immediately. If no matter how serious or it's not for me to judge if it's serious or not. You go into an investigation right away. You start interviewing people, you get as much information as you can, and then you determine if it's founded or unfounded. Now, 10, 15 years ago, in the mega technology corporations that I've worked in, unnamed local mega technology corporations, yeah, they determined for us what was important and what wasn't, what deserved recognition and what didn't, what should be swept under the rug and what should, be talked about. Women, more often than not, back then, women were labeled as troublemakers or bitter. She's complaining because she's bitter. She was passed over for that promotion because she's bitter. She didn't want to go hang out at the bowling alley. She didn't want to go, she didn't want to have, she never gets together with us after work.
Dang, that's crazy.
What? Maybe she doesn't want to get together with you after work. Nowadays, you don't really hear much of it anymore. But was it really a thing between, I would say, 95 and 2010? Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, good. I'm glad you, because I was about to make that blind assumption, but since I didn't have that backroom knowledge, I'm glad that you were here, because that was the first thought to my head. I was like, I think that mindset is a generational thing, because it was you almost like look at Anchorman and the way they acted. But nowadays you can't.
Hey,
that ain't.
But
So
let me say this though too. People have just gotten slicker too.
Yes, I was about to say
slicker how.
It's no longer. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
It's no longer sexual favors. It's more of can you play with the boys? Are you gonna be able to handle our chauvinistic jokes and just say, oh, it's just men being men?
Yeah. Locker room talk.
And don't be so sensitive and hey, gents.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons black men get excluded out of that too, because there's like
exactly. That's what I was going to say.
They're not going to be comfortable saying everything that they normally say, and it's one
women
of those things.
And minorities. That's what I see the most is women and minorities being called difficult or angry because they don't want to participate in these stupid ass reindeer games after work. Maybe they just don't want to hang out with you.
Oh, damn, I got a question.
You're not a team player.
Yeah.
Well, no, and I was going to say also slicker with the sexual harassment, because there's so many conversations amongst management. I've been in management for a while, that people don't ask for your reasons.
Don't ask for your what? I'm sorry?
Reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you go into a back room, you have a list of people, you're making decisions about them. Mm-hmm. You're all supposed to be people that can be trusted with this decision. And literally a name can come up and one of those people, maybe it's 5 of you, just says, no, I don't think they're right for this. Mm-hmm. They don't have to say they're difficult. They don't have to say anything that would incriminate them. They'll just say, they're not right for this, and
they're not ready. Maybe they don't. You can pick 20 things. They're not. They're not qualified. They're overqualified. They're not, because when you have 15 different candidates, then you can easily poke a hole in any one of them and be like, no, that's not gonna work.
Well, and this is what women have to really learn to stand up for each other, because more of us are in these rooms together, and we know what's happening in the background a lot of times. And so when I've been in one of these rooms and somebody, I know you've dated this person, or you wanted to talk to this person, or there was some type of relationship happening that fell apart, right? Mm-hmm. And this person's name comes across and you say, no, I don't think they're right for this. Why? Why don't you think they're right for this? I think they are. And you don't want to say anything else, right? Because you don't want to incriminate yourself, because it is a new day. So you say, all right, well, if you think they are, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, not on my watch.
I don't think she's right for this. She has 3 kids. What the
right? Oh, right. You can say anything. There's that. She's not gonna have the time for this. I don't think she's gonna have the time.
They because they can't say the kids, because then that can get reported. They be like, exactly. So they won't say that, but they're I question her commitment.
She can't really commit to this. Yep, exactly.
Right. And they can see it's all in the wording. They ain't gonna say, oh, because she got kids, or because you see she's pregnant now, or like you can't say any of that. Yeah, I question her level of commitment. And, and who's gonna? What does that mean?
Yeah.
That's I think this just brings up, like y'all are saying, like work politics in general. Because it's like, if you can't go out and have drinks, and I have a theory that even if you're not sleeping with them, because I think some of it is like a form of hazing, like a secret society, like an like I'm putting exaggeration on it, but it's like that. It's like, well, if you sleep with me, I have a thing on you. You go out with me and we do drugs together.
We kind of get we get dirty in some form of
fashion together.
Yeah, like some of it is beyond even gender. You know, it's just work politics, and you can see who's playing them, and you can see who's not playing them. You know what I mean? And then there's also like a piece that I have noticed that I really, really don't like is when now this is getting off subject. I don't want to get off subject. I want to stay on subject.
So to stay on subject, Denise, kind of going back to what you were saying, because I think it's two different things now because of someone fighting to keep their job versus someone who sleeps their way to the top.
Oh yeah, two
different things.
Two different things.
And let me make some people mad here. If the roles were reversed and men had the ability to sleep with their superior, their female superiors in order to get a leg up.
No problem.
See, somebody, thank you, somebody saying it, so I don't have to say it. Appreciate it.
But also,
I didn't want to have to go say it all the way.
True.
But
that's
so that
actually
kind of goes back to like power dynamics too.
Some of these ladies are disgusting, and they're not even cute. You wouldn't want to. You would not.
It ain't
Especially those ladies in HR.
I'm not saying that you would want to, but you was like, yeah, I'm gonna take it for the team.
But
just
even
I'm trying to get this raise. I'm trying to get this money.
No,
and it ain't like, man, I don't know. Because men will talk about this all the time. There's been a couple times. Most men who, if you've been with a certain amount of women, it's been one or two you ain't really want to, but you just had to take one for the team.
No, the power dynamic.
I tell you a situation. I just had to get back home, so I'm like, man, look, I better play ball. I need to get back home. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where I'm at.
There lies the difference.
Officially heard way more than I was, and I'm gonna tune out now. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good
night. Listening to y'all sharing these these experiences in the workforce, because I haven't been in the workforce in quite some time. It appears that the work performance is out the window, and shallow reasons is determines if a person stay in a position or if they get promoted or elevated, and it just goes to show how corrupted and tainted the workforce is. When you have to, look over your shoulder or keep your head on a swivel or watch your back because some coworkers can't be trusted or whatnot or whatever the case may be, and it's just terrible. It makes me not want to go back into that area because I'm contemplating it, but it's like, damn, I don't want to have to run into. I mean, I have run into quite a few, type of things that, that have happened to me, but it's just if people finding like some shallow reasons to, not give somebody the promotion they deserve based on work performance, that's just stupid.
Well, here's the truth.
But it's a game.
Even when it comes to management, the truth is 90% of people are interchangeable. 90% of your management, they're interchangeable. I can tell you almost every manager I know at my place that I know 10 people who could do their job just as good as they are. And they know that too. There's very few people that you run across be like, oh, they're special. They cannot easily be replaced. Most of the people, managers, directors, all the way up, you can be replaced. So all they're doing is just position and make sure they have the right people around them to hold their spot the way they need to, because most people can easily be replaced.
It's not just corporate. I mean, it's not just corporate. I'll give you an example. Tonight, I went to pick up some food, and there was a young man training a much younger woman, and she's trying to take my order, and he's being all, you know, flirty kind of, and like, I'm going to let you take this one. I know I've trained you well. And while she's taking my order, he reaches from behind her into her front pocket and says, I need the key card.
Fuck
And
no.
he walks away, and I looked at her and I went, did he just put his hand in your pocket?
I'd have been in that motherfucking fast food spot so quick, he'd have lost his job that day.
She said, and I was standing there. I was standing at the register. And so I said to myself, self, don't be a Karen. Don't say anything, don't say
don't be a Karen.
I'm her mama today, goddammit. This is my daughter.
Yeah, and so I watched him for a minute and I was like, this mother. And so I took my stuff to my table, and the little girl happened to go to the bathroom. I needed to wash my hands. So I went into the bathroom and I said, ma'am, you do not let any man who is not attached to your body, if you are not a conjoined twin, he does not put his hands in your pocket.
But he already did.
Don't let him do that to you.
But he already did. He already did. He didn't ask for permission.
And she said, it was already there. He's just annoying. And I was like, don't let him touch you like that.
Right.
That just happened like an hour ago. And I thought, where is your mom? Where's your dad? Tell somebody that this happened, because that's not okay. But what would happen is she would be ostracized, made fun of, and fired. That's what would happen.
Yeah. He's training her. She's disposable.
Yep.
That's why he lost his job that day.
I witnessed it. It bothered the shit out of me.
We need to go back there tomorrow.
So what happens now? People understand it. Well, I mean, probably she's a young girl, but in general, people understand the chain of command a lot better than they did back then. My boss is not my boss. My boss's boss's boss.
Yeah.
Is my boss. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you ain't doing what you supposed to do, people will go above your head in a half a second.
Yeah.
And if they ain't doing that, the director ain't, okay, well, if you ain't, I'm gonna go to the regional director. If you ain't, then I'm gonna go to like the lines of chain of command is all the way up there. People ain't afraid to go up it.
It's every level. This kind of intimidation and mistreatment is every level. Corporate, hourly, it doesn't matter.
And what did that experience just teach this girl? That this is just what they do.
Yeah, be quiet about it.
When I'm a subordinate. Mm-hmm. I'm a subordinate. I just do. I don't say. I just coddle. I want my job. I'm sure she's making fucking $10, $12 an hour, right? If this is a young girl working at a fast food or, a local food spot or whatever. This is the whole fucking going back to the grandma shit. This is the sleeping the way to the top. We can't change what we don't acknowledge happens. Mm-hmm. And shit like this fucking man putting his hand in this girl's pocket
from around the back. Yeah, I did email corporate.
What makes you think that that's okay?
Yeah.
Patriarchy. I'm sorry. And you can be sick of me continuing to say it, but that's the basis of why this shit happens. And until every woman decides to stand up against men who do shit like that, that doesn't mean that women don't abuse women too, or that women don't abuse men. But in this particular dynamic, we have the and I'm going to say weaker as maybe a poor use of a word, but the weaker species versus the stronger species, only because usually men can physically dominate most women. Most scenarios. That's how that happens. What the fuck is she supposed to do? Nothing. Why? We just take it. I gotta have this job.
I'm in training.
How am I gonna pay my bills if I lose? I can't. I'm on probation. I gotta have a job. If I lose my job, I'm gonna go to jail. I mean, there's just so many variables that are never considered. Do what? He froze up.
That sounds like maturity on a lot of parts. Like, how old did the guy look? How old did the guy look?
Old enough to not do that shit. Probably about 20, 22. She was maybe 18, 17.
That's
18.
what I thought. So they a bunch of babies making not a lot of money. My whole point is with that is that people who making real money, they probably wouldn't do that, and if they did, they definitely wouldn't do it in front of you because they know better. Like a man who's really making money.
That's like saying cops are going to stop people because their cameras are on. They do it with the camera on. People who are going to abuse other people don't care who's watching.
Oh yes, they do. You care about money. So if you're making 6 figures plus, then you're not doing that in front of customers because
If I have no fear, if I have no
the way
fear of
things work.
consequence,
Of course you have fear.
not
If
if my
somebody
boss
sees
is
that
doing
and
the
you
same bullshit, and the owner's doing the same shit, and the CEO does the same shit, and then we all go out drinking and doing cocaine
No,
and going to strip
I ain't
clubs
saying
and
they don't
shit.
do it. They not.
I'm just
You're not going to
saying.
catch them doing it in front of customers. You're not going to catch them doing it in front of customers. Now you'll
I
catch
mean,
a
you
young
can't
dumb
say you're
22-year-old.
not, but you can't say you would. I mean, you will catch them. You just don't catch them as commonly as it happens, I would think.
They're not going to do it in public.
Yes, they are.
In 2003, I can tell you the floor, the time, and where my chair was when a regional manager walked up to me in a group of people and said, "Stephanie, I was watching a porn last night, and the girl looked exactly like you." The fuck? He literally said that. This was my first week on the job. It's my first week on the job. I was 30. I was not a spring chicken. I still looked like this. I looked like a Karen then too. He still said it to me. I marched straight over to HR and was like, because I wasn't HR at the time. I was like, hey, this was just said, and there was 4 other people standing there. 2 of them admitted they heard it. The other 2 denied it. Can you guess who admitted they heard it and who denied it?
Mm-hmm. The women heard it. The men didn't hear it.
Yes,
but again, you're speaking about a different time though. That's that old Anchorman stuff.
6 figures plus even back then, but yeah, he literally said that out loud.
I don't think that they would do that in today's time. I don't think that they would do that.
I feel like maybe not in corporate. Like if we're talking about when we're talking about promotions and all that, like
right now, you in the entertainment industry.
That's where I was going next,
Denise. That's different. That's totally different.
Where
yes,
all
correct.
these little different places that I go to, you know who's running what, you know who's connected to what, you know who's on what TV show, you know who's playing with this person, you know who's whatever. Yep. You don't think I can't walk up to these dudes if I'm trying to sleep my way to the top? You don't think I could walk up to these dudes that I have access to right there and sleep my way, make my life easier so I ain't got to go to work full time and turn around and do all this shit I'm doing where I'm working. I don't even know how many hours I'm working at this point. Like but I'm choosing not to. There are people who, offer me I remember when I lived in Austin, offering me like a place where I could rehearse. I was like, oh, cool. I'm building my band. I don't have enough money to rehearse somewhere and buy rehearsal time and this, that, and the third. I'm thinking they're just being cool. They need somebody in there to keep things going. No, this person was trying to, eventually I find out, oh, you're trying to fuck. Okay, well, that's that. There will be no more rehearsals here. Oh, well, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Right. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I have constantly come against, this person, I know the person working on it, yada, yada, yada. And maybe I can get you to open up. You thinking, they fuck with the movement, yada, yada. The next thing you know, they're asking you out on a date. They're not asking you to fuck, but they're asking you to fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Without saying it, right?
Right.
I'm gonna say it. Let me make it look a little prettier and sound a little nicer, so I don't sound like a total fucking whore. Right. Oh, I want to take you out to dinner. No, you know, bitch, you want to fuck me.
Right. But at the end of the day,
just say that, but don't.
But at
actually.
the end of the day, I have integrity.
Sure.
And what I value is not fame, money, nothing. What I value are my morals. That I value that first. So it just don't matter what somebody brings to me. I'm sorry. I don't care. I believe in me. I believe in me.
Yeah.
And it's different because I saw my mom. I had something to see. I had something to see, or a person who's fell down and got back up, and fell down and got back up, and never let something keep them down. Everybody's not built mentally for that. So and then to get into power dynamics, what I did want to say is, y'all talk about the men that might sleep with a woman. Yo, that's not the same power dynamics. Right. Ain't no woman for the most part finna overpower no man. So even if you choose or don't choose, just the eeriness of knowing someone wants to fuck you that you don't want to fuck.
Yeah. Ugh.
That part.
Men in the industry. We're
subordinate. Like,
yeah, that part.
That's scary. That's always feeling like somebody might try to rape me. That's what that feels like. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta watch my back with you.
Mhm.
So it's like that's just not even the same scenario. Like we can't even do that with that one.
Agree.
Well, and as we're hearing now more than ever, men in the industry are facing that sleep with me and get promoted scenario. I mean, we're hearing it more and more often. Sexual favors for the bigwigs in the entertainment industry.
Yep.
And men versus men.
Yeah,
you hear
for
about
sure.
men with other men, like
For sure. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, and some people go for it, a lot of them don't. Like that goes back to Denise said, you got a choice. We had 234. We had 234. Did we get everything out?
Man, I wanted to get, but we can't do this one tonight. But I wanted to talk about the soldier who lit himself on fire. Did I miss that part?
Oh my God, he was an airman.
We hadn't got there yet.
I have a very unpopular opinion, and I don't know if y'all got time tonight, but I got an unpopular opinion. So if we need to put more time on the clock for a different time, we can. Cause I got an unpopular opinion.
Born and raised in San Antonio, he was an airman, not even Army. You always hear about this shit with Army. He was an airman. That's wild.
It don't look like we got enough time for this.
No, we not enough coffee.
We
don't look like it.
I don't think.
But we can. I'm sure we got plenty of posts. We can start off with this one on Pick a Post because we didn't pick a post in a while, so we can start off with this one and then whatever else come up throughout the week.
We had quite a few. We had the pain for Facebook. We had the outage. We had the prepper conversation. What happened in those 30 minutes? We had the fetus of the person. We had we had quite a few that we had on there that we were going to try to get to. But you want to disagree with me all goddamn first half of the show.
That's what I came for. We didn't even get into that until the first hour. We did an hour talking about other stuff before we even got into it.
Wait for Denise to get here, damn it.
My bad,
you couldn't tell by the way I was talking that I was ready to go into that.
We were trying to slow walk it so we could get Denise to pull up.
I literally, y'all, I had to go all the way somewhere else and then come all the way home. I stayed at work like 2 hours past trying to work. Like I had so much stuff going on. My bad.
It's all good.
Thank you for hopping on. We appreciate it.
No, I appreciate y'all because y'all keep me sane. So I get like a break to.
Where else can you get this spicy and still be good? You know what I mean?
Precisely. Which I miss truth. We're not allowed to tell the truth on a regular basis anymore.
Man, say that shit. We're not allowed to tell the truth.
You got kicked off for saying carnivore. That was my first. I'm like, dang, we really gonna have to shut Freethinkers down.
I swear to God.
We can't even say carnivore.
No. But I know I'll never type CANNIBAL. I'll never type that word. I guarantee you that much. I'll never type that word again.
By the way, y'all, speaking of the shutdown, we were talking, we need to start an email list because we need to make sure that we can stay in contact with each other. If things do go down, we can also promo the latest episodes. We're also going to send out just like within us, you send us the email. We also want to get some feedback from y'all. What can we do better? What do you want to hear more of and things like that? But we definitely, because you know what? It's time to build. Freethinkers worldwide. Let's get it worldwide. And we're going to need your emails, y'all. So that's coming soon.
Yes. 100%.
And Denise, you missed it at the beginning. And I know that obviously you are no longer in Austin anymore, but whenever you are, we are going to do the last Tuesday of every month in person. We're going to be in person again. Ooh. So awesome. We are going. We'll have the details, of course, on the Facebook Freethinkers page. But the last Tuesday of every, and we're not going to go live. It's going to be private. So we will go live up until we start talking, and once we start talking, we're going to cut the cameras. But Brent,
with juicy,
yes, ma'am, girl, like them old days. But Brent with Dirty Glove Midwest Barbecue, one of the food trucks, one of my people up there on Howard Lane. They got a huge, beautiful pavilion, and he was like, "Bring Freethinkers here." And so we went last week and took a look, and I was like, fuck yeah. So last Tuesday of every month, we're gonna go in person at the food truck lot. So I'll have a lot more information on the Facebook page for you to join us. But yeah, we're gonna go once a month in person, totally private. So whoever's there is gonna be the only ones who know what we talk about, And so definitely, to your point about having a distribution list and an email list, being able to keep in touch with people, we definitely expect our family to grow again, because there's a lot of folks who really just want to do in-person private versus put this shit all on the internet for everybody to see.
That's true. Because
So,
some of the things we talk about, some people can be compromised, like on their jobs,
yeah,
and like just
absolutely.
truthfully,
Absolutely.
I stand on business in my HR, so people know exactly how I feel. Nothing that I said tonight would shock the shit out of any of my employers.
See, and sometimes I wish like I had an employer so I could just like test the waters and see if they're like, you can't say these certain things. So, man,
No, you don't. No, you don't.
tell
You
them
see
right
how
up
much
front.
you get taken off of Facebook. You already know it wouldn't work for you.
But I think because I lack that fear filter, right? I think sometimes I just speak from a different space because I don't have any fucking fear of repercussion. Then sometimes I do wonder what it would be like to have, this aura of restrictedness because of fear of repercussion. And I don't have that.
Nikki, let me tell you something. You could get a job all you want to. You do not fear repercussion. That's just not who you are. So good luck trying to like recreate this experience because that's just not who you are.
And it's possible, right? I think I would have I think that would be such a conundrum in my own brain and my spirit to be like, how do you be you and try to make these people happy at the same time? That's why I always joke that I'm gonna always get fired from whatever job I take. Like I'm always gonna be fired. And maybe that's not a good mentality to have, but I just, like you said, we're not allowed to tell the truth sometimes. And I love telling the truth.
Yeah.
I love telling the truth. Even if it's not everybody's truth and people disagree with my version of truth, I love telling the truth. And I love this part of being able to be just that open and be just that.
Just say, do it while you can, because there will be a day that you cannot do it over.
Man, look, all Denise was talking about today was we got to get a platform. We got to get a platform. We got to get a platform. And I'm like, well, shit, if all the satellites go down, and they cut our communications, we ain't going to have no platform to get on any damn way. So back to the walkie-talkies and meetings in caves and shit, I guess.
But imagine like being those guys that got deplatformed on YouTube, and you were like,
was that fresh and fit?
You're making money, huh?
Yeah,
was that fresh
you're
and
making
fit?
a living. You paying that's your livelihood. You paying your bills off of that.
Just wiped out.
You paying your mortgage off of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have no way to get in contact with any of your fan base that you've built for years. See, the reason why my mind has shifted so much about this is because artists, we use social media to build our entire fan base. So at any point my page gets shut down or hacked, I'm screwed because I don't have an email list. And that's a horrible situation to be in, to build your whole entire existence on a platform you don't own. It's good to start it, but there just needs to be something else for a just in case. We're gonna be over here now.
Not just in case, win. It's gonna happen.
It is a win. Yeah, it's a win.
It's a win.
It's a win. Can you imagine if we were still offline though? Like if we were still, like if social media was still down for the day?
Mayhem in the streets.
Boy, oh boy. It was
people be going to the grocery stores buying toilet paper because
oh my God. The fucking grocery stores be beat up right now.
Like, what would people like me do? I work for a company that doesn't have an office. I work for a company in another state that doesn't have an office. Where the fuck would I go?
Oh my goodness, that's a whole nother thought. All these people working
Right.
remote.
Yeah,
and
how would
then
I earn money? What would I do?
Wow.
Yeah.
Y'all, that's
I
a
ain't even
good
think
one.
about that.
What happens if we're all working remote and there's a
Yeah.
cyber attack
I'm
and
fucked.
you can't get on the internet?
I'm
You
Right.
fucked.
can disable a whole economy like that, y'all.
Girl.
And now it's more and more people working from home now. That is
Girl.
crazy. And even if I was able to go into the office, like we don't use landline phones anymore. We run our lines
you
through
don't
the
even
internet.
connect
Like I still
anyway.
wouldn't be able to communicate with my clients.
No.
You can't access database without
Nothing.
internet. So even if you could go to the office, you can't get on the database. You can't get on your servers. Your servers are shot. You can't access shit.
I have no
they couldn't
paper files. Where's all the files? What are we going to look at? How are we going to contact our clients? Everything's in a database.
We are
Everything.
so reliant on the internet, and we that's dangerous to be that reliant on one
It
thing.
is.
But that's exactly where they want us to be. It's
And a lot of
mission
people
accomplished.
have a lot of new homes. Your electricity, everything.
Your
is
nets,
connected.
yeah. All
like
your
all of
automated
that.
services, your front door, your cars.
Denise, I think I ruined Denise. I think I
And
just,
I'm stuck because I'm like, yo, a
It goes-
cyber attack.
we don't even realize the ripple effect.
yeah. Scary.
It was one thing in my job, like because I'm an account manager, and one of the things people told me is that I'm just giving you an example of ripple effects we don't even think about.
Mhm.
The like Coca-Cola, the industry took a major hit when COVID happened, because when everybody went home out of the offices, nobody was purchasing from vending machines anymore.
Mhm.
You don't even think about that. Like
Mhm.
they such a large portion of their business came from vending machines
Mhm.
in offices, in workspaces. When people weren't in the office no more, they lost like 30% of their business. They had to start laying people off.
Mhm.
I'm like, I never even thought about
The
like the
trickle down.
ripple effect people
Yeah.
not being in office would have on Coca-Cola.
Look
Yeah.
at car insurance companies. People stop driving and stop having accidents.
And now
So they
fucking
can't get
rates went through the
they can't
roof.
get
And
money
now
from each
everybody's
other.
insurance is increased.
They can't get money from each
Which
other.
is a scam on them, because wasn't nobody getting in wrecks. So
Yeah.
why you still
Exactly.
raising
So
up the rate?
Allstate couldn't sue State Farm. They're not getting money from each other because nobody's driving, nobody's having an accident.
But what
So
do they tell
have to
you?
raise
But what do they tell you though? They tell you, oh, it's the uninsured driver's fault. It's
Right.
their fault. No,
And wasn't nobody
motherfucker.
even out there driving. All
Yeah.
right, y'all.
Yeah.
2:45. We getting started. We getting revved
All
up.
right.
Parking lot.
It is that we partner. But we will see you guys next Tuesday. Go to the page, lots of conversation. Give us some topic suggestions. We'll see you the last Tuesday of the month. More information on the page. Share. And thank you guys for everybody being here tonight. Appreciate the conversation. Good night.
Good night.